Workshop to order. The time is 12 noon. I wish to welcome you to the Superintendent's Workshop being held in the Joanne Idelad Jr. TEC. I ask that out of respect to everyone, please silence all electronic devices at this time. If you have any material you wish to share with any board member, please give that to our Executive Assistant, Mrs. Moray, seated over here. We will take a break every 2 hours. If needed before that, let me know. All right, I will turn it over to the Superintendent to discuss the purpose of this workshop.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this meeting is to provide information regarding items that will be coming eventually for board approval at an upcoming business meeting. The first item on the agenda deals with the realignment of the system, but prior to doing that, let's remind ourselves why we do this work. So on the screen now, which ties directly into the realignment of the system, are our academic outcomes hot off the presses for the 25-26 school year. So over the last several years, the school system has experienced a great deal of success, moving from 38th to 5th, and we continued on an upward trajectory. So what you have on the screen before you is looking at our ELA outcomes. We'll go through each of the specific accountability areas by grade level or by a grade configuration to give a deep understanding of the progress of the school system. The overarching message is that we continue to be outperforming and outpacing the state within almost every area in which you're looking at configurations aligned to accountable outcomes. So this is grades 3 through 10, ELA performance. You can see in 22-23, we were simply 2 percentage points above the state. And you fast forward to the end of this year, we're now sitting at 67% of our students scoring at or above grade level, which is outperforming the state of 61, as well as outpacing the state where they only grew not as many points as us. So you can see significant improvement year over year. Looking at ELA third grade, once again, significant improvement. That 69 last school year for us was the second highest, ended up being the second highest in the state of Florida. Now that number is at 75%, an improvement of 15 percentage points over the state. So once again, outpacing, outperforming. I continue to say this is the number that has significant influence on the improvement of all other assessed areas. The more efficient and effective kids are at developing and creating and maintaining the skill of reading, the more efficient and impactful we will be as they move through their schooling experience. Now, when we look by grade configuration, you can see our elementary schools, let me not say elementary schools, students in grades 3 through 5, whether it's a K-8 or an elementary school, 11 percentage points over the state at 71 points, highest the system has ever been in grades 3 through 5. And looking at grades 6 through 8, 66 percentage points, 5 above the state, highest the system has ever been. Grades 9 through 10, 64 percentage points, an improvement over 4 over the state. So significant improvement in the area of ELA. When we dig into math, very similar results. All math, whether it's algebra, geometry, elementary, middle school, high school, all of it's combined here. You can see an improvement from 55, 22, 23, all the way to 66, a 6-point improvement over the state for this year, outperforming, outpacing. Math, grades 3 through 5 in elementary school, a improvement now sitting at 72%, 8 percentage points above the state, outperforming in grades 3 through 5. Math, middle school math, we were the same as the state. Now we're 7 percentage points above the state, going back to 23-24. So over the last 2 years, significant improvement in mathematics in our middle school spaces, or our grades 6 through 8. I got to condition myself with the K-8s that we have. Algebra, 4 percentage points above the state, sitting at 61. Geometry, 2 percentage points above the state, sitting at 58. This is all social studies, which is specifically in our secondary schools through civics and U.S. history. 77 was drastic improvement for us last year. As you can see, we went from 69 to 77. Same rate of growth, 14 percentage point increase over 2 years. Not a lot of districts are experiencing that kind of success, sitting now at 82% in our overall civics and U.S. history, which makes up our score towards our U.S. history. Social studies, civics, this is our middle schools specifically, a 7 percentage point improvement over the state last year, and then an 8 percentage improvement this year, sitting at 84, which is 2 years ago, we were the same as the state at 67. Something different is happening in Indian River County in regards to civics. U.S. history, 77, which is one of the highest scores in the state for U.S. history. Now it's sitting at 80. Once again, improvement from the state's perspective annually, which is great to see, but you're seeing that same rate of improvement and a little bit better in our school system. Now we're into science. Science is made up of 5th grade and 8th grade, and then biology. So every accountability area is influenced here, sitting at 72, 9 percentage points above the state, and you once again outpacing from the state's perspective. Science 5th grade, we had the 5th highest at 67, I think was the 5th highest score in the state last year. That score is now 69, so we'll see where we end up. State did improve 5 percentage points. 8th grade science, once again, significant improvement for us. State improved 4 percentage points. We went from 59 to 66, leaving us 13 points above the state in 8th grade science. So you're seeing drastic improvements in our middle school, drastic improvement in our secondary schools as we pushing up proficient readers throughout our system. And then biology, once again, has always been a high, for the last 3 years anyway, a very high score for us, 77, 77, and now an improvement of 79. So a great deal of improvement from a systems perspective. Very proud, and I said it before we even took the assessments of what our schools were going to be able to do in this upcoming school year. When you see the dedication, when you see just a selfless way of committing and connecting to students, you see drastic improvement. So I am excited and eager to receive the results. We won't receive them probably until the end of June, maybe first week in July, depending on when the state cleans everything up. The numbers that I just shared are all students who took the assessment. And we know when the state calculates the information for the school grade, it looks at students who had been in the school in October and February, as well as a number of other different criteria. So you'll see slight changes, typically a percent or 2 improvement, or staying the same depending on the students that had been in the same school or the same district for the district grade, school for the school grade. But as we anticipate academic outcomes, we're very excited to celebrate what we anticipated being a rate of improvement once again, even though we're sitting at 5 right now. And I would never wish any district to do anything other than to improve. And based on the state's number, it looks like a lot of districts will improve. But we believe our pacing of improvement is at an accelerated rate. So we'll see where we end up in terms of state rankings, in terms of school grades. You can put it in the book. We will be an A district for the 4th year in a row. Even though the state increased the criteria for an A, going from 64 to 65, we will significantly be above that. So it's just a matter of waiting for the state to update its information, and we are very, very excited about where our schools are anticipated to fall, and we'll have a lot to celebrate as those grades are released. And as we transition into the district reorganization, won't be an extended presentation, but I would like to set this up by simply saying, this is the 8th time I've reorganized the system. So 8 is a very, very big number for me. It's something we do annually, and we did it in February and June of the first year that I was here. In every single one of those years, the intent was, how do I design the system based on who's in the system to ensure success for the upcoming school year? This design, significantly different. How do I ensure that this design won't just improve us next year, but sets us up for continuous improvement over the course of the next 5 or 6 years? So designing the system in a way based on the capacity that we have across the system. And over the last 7 years, 7 years, the goal really has to build world-class, cabinet members, world-class principals, and then give them enough work to do and responsibilities that they can receive and fully implement, while at the same time pushing and growing them. And what we have before us, or you have before you, is any single person sitting at this table can go and sit and serve as a superintendent in a surrounding district. Based on what they have done, based on their performance, you have probably one of the highest skilled teams, I believe, not just because they work for children in this district and report to me, but based on the depth of who they are, the quality of the decisions they make, and the care in which they take in their responsibilities. This system is in a very financially sound place. I believe a good reason that this system is in a financially sound place is because for the last 7 years, we've gone through this exercise. And this exercise has always been, how do we get money as close to kids as possible? How do we look at the system and redesign the system on an annual basis, just not replace people, but evaluate the system from top to bottom in regards to our current level of capacity, systems and structures and sustainable practices across the organization that have been created that we need to revert or switch resources to change how we do this work. If you look how this system functioned 7 years ago and how it functions today, it is drastically different. And each and every single year, the driving force is, how do we become as thin and as light as possible in terms of the finances that are at this district office and push those services and supports down to schools. Now, the landscape in terms of funding public education has drastically changed. But because we've been implementing this practice for the last 7 years, from a financial perspective, we're not like our neighboring districts who are conducting a reduction in force. We're not like our neighboring districts that are releasing folks from their employment, and those folks finding out in the last minute. We're in a fiscally responsible place because of this exercise. And once again, as we put this exercise into process, we're going to realize a $279,000 reduction in overall district staff salary. So looking at it, evaluating who's here, what are they doing, and then reorganizing the deck and coming in at a lower number. So $279,000 based on a reduction of salary. We are also very, very proud of the work that we have taken on from a systems perspective in the realignment of our schools. And we anticipated saving right around 1.5, we'll be realizing over $1.5 million in savings. Walking into that work 6 months ago, we didn't realize when we were going to be able to realize that gain, because we made a commitment to our employees that this reorganization or shifting in practice would result in individuals losing their employment, that we would find positions that they were qualified for and absorb them into our system until we did. So are we completely there, Mr. Green? We are completely there. So way ahead of schedule. We're able to absorb and place everyone in jobs that they're qualified for and servicing in the upcoming school year. We thought it could be up to a year that we would be able to absorb those folks. So that's an additional $1.5 million in savings. And then on an annual basis, and this goes back to the credit of our extended cabinet and cabinet members, an additional $1.9 million in savings in the reallocation of resources. So discretionary funding, evaluating as we do it on an annual basis, making decisions that say, let's pull back these funds to absorb them as costs. So in this year's overall savings, including the realignment of the innovation project, we're realizing about a $3.8 million savings. And you look back over the course of the 7 years that we've done this work, we've been able to save the system about just over $11 million. So we are proud about the cost savings, and will continue to implement this cost savings over the course of time. So one goal was to organize and sustain this system, ensuring that the district is aligned and designed in a way that is strategically building the capacity of the individuals within the system that we lead. One key initiative for me was to balance the responsibilities of cabinet members while at the same time ensure cabinet level members have a number of assignments that allow them to go much deeper in their areas of responsibility. So evaluating that work. As I have informed all the board members, one of my key issues is really around two specific areas that a number of key areas, but problems that we had to solve is the volume of work that it takes to supervise principals. The individual, in this case, Ms. Christofoli, who supervises principals, is a around-the-clock assignment. The other responsibilities based on that often get neglected based on the volume of work involved in supervising and meeting the needs of our principals, getting them the things that they need, the resources that they need, the support that they need in a timely fashion. That job has proved itself to be an assignment within itself, and we can't have any other area of responsibility suffer. So in shifting that responsibility, we'll bring Mr. Cummings to serve in that role along with advocacy. The role of advocacy was fulfilled by the very, very big shoes of Mr. Seymour, because I don't know, size 15 shoe, as well as the volume of work that he did. So to have that more intentional around our systems gives us a better understanding of the impact of support, the impact of decisions, as well as the quality of services that we're providing through reconnecting and reestablishing the advocacy office. That will be one of the shifts. Mr. Cummings will fulfill that role. In addition to that, we have to be more strategic and more thoughtful around ESE. Our most fragile students deserve the highest levels of support and the highest levels of integration, ensuring that we are really sustaining and growing. Now, we've done a great job academically, but there is a clearly defined need to be more intentional around building out and integrating exceptional student education programming and compliance into our district's way of work. So we'll shift that under the area of Ms. Becerra, who will serve as our Chief Academic Officer, and integrate that work into what will be executive directors now, who take on additional levels of work. That, once again, is pushing down the decision-making authority closer to students and expanding and building capacity from a systems perspective in case one of these great people are hired by another system to serve as superintendent or take their services somewhere else. Regardless of who's sitting at this table, this board will have, or the superintendent will have, multiple people to choose from that have been prepared within the system to step up and do this work. So that shift will take place as we reintroduce executive directors, and then it's just a simple balance of responsibilities. Ms. Christofoli will oversee everything before school, after school, transportation, athletics, activities. One of the biggest areas that or complaints or concerns that actually make its way to the district now deal with athletics and activities, not things that are happening during the confines of the school day, but things that are happening after the school day. So we need higher levels of intentionality there. She'll also take on human resources, which Mr. Green has had for the last several years, so kind of thin line, taking some responsibilities away from Bruce as he's solving our finances as well as our risk management scenarios. So HR comes over to Beth. The business, or not the business, the building maintenance also comes over to Ms. Christofoli, and that is a full-on responsibility there. So that is the realignment overarching. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Board members, anyone?
Start, I guess.
You want? Okay.
I just want to say thank you for the update and the
Is your
realignment.
mic on?
Yeah, it says it's on. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the update. I think the biggest thing for me, obviously, is the financial aspect and then the grades. I mean, at the end of the day, everything we talk about comes down to these assessments, and everything we do ultimately leads to that. So to see this continued growth is really fantastic to see, and it's my hope that over the years, you know, what we're doing is that we're giving better education to kids younger and younger, and this growth is going to compound extremely hard in about 5 years, and you're going to have a very different school district here. Because all those younger kids who went through the K-8s are then going to be in your high school. You're just going to blow it out of the water. It's not even going to be close. So what you're building here is you're building the compound interest in their education, and it's going to pay off in dividends.
I'm going to use that.
Yes, Jackie?
Yes, that's a nice way of entering in some financial terms
Yeah,
in
there you go.
academics for sure. Congratulations to all of the students, all of the teachers, all of the parents, everyone involved in the success of the school district as it stands right now, even though we don't know the final grades. It is clear that there have been several schools that have made double-digit gains in multiple content areas, which is a tremendous feat. Together, we continue to raise the achievement. There is always room for improvement. But of course, as we create these opportunities for every child to succeed, there is certainly hope at the end of the tunnel, and future goals and dreams and achievements that we can reach even past the high school level. Hopefully that will raise, as Dr. Posca put it, the secondary school grades, when these elementary and middle schoolers become high schoolers, we'll be able to see that growth later on. Ms. Besora, I think I've said this last year. I just wanted to give you an extra special congratulations. As Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, it can't be easy to have the entire district's weight on your shoulders. Everyone else has the weight, yes, but yours is unique. And you deserve to be seen, to be acknowledged for this work. You deserve to be congratulated, you and your team, of course, specific to this area. And I'm just so proud. I'm just so proud of the work that you have put forward and what we see in our kids today. So thank you for that. Congratulations.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think Dr. Posca again said it excellent. I love the compound interest because that's what this is all about. If we can get literacy rate in third grade, we've got a chance to really change the lives of kids in the future. That's the key, and I think we're beginning to see it pay off, and it'll continue to pay off. I would like to say that I, again, appreciate also the getting ahead of the situation. We are not like other school districts because I think the 11 million, we were at 7, and you found another 4 through the reorganization, which again, Bruce and your team and everybody for getting involved in that. And I know all the work that you did, the reorganization, that too is paying off. I would note that the state, what did they wind up with? $85 is where we are right now. That gives us about a 1.5% increase. As everybody saw, the inflation index in April, it was 3.8%. So, here we are again having to do more with less, and thank goodness you guys are ahead of it. I know that we are continuing to reorganize and figure that we can milk out every expense saving we can so we can go ahead and keep supporting the success that we've had as a district. And I think that perhaps we're reaching the end, but every time I think we're reaching the end, you find a little bit more in terms of the way we can reorganize and save. And I just think that's been a great effort because, as you know, with the expenses that we have in healthcare and everything else that's going on, 1.9% and a 3.8% budget doesn't take you too far.
Dr. Jones?
I agree with everything that's been said, but when I look out here at the district and I look at our teachers, we just have a good school system with people who really care about kids, and I think that's really evident. Actually, before Dr. Moore said that 11 million, I was going back in my notes, and I'm thinking, we'll have 4 years in a row, we've saved 11 million. Our alignment, when you look at the alignment that you created for this school system, I think really makes sense. I think when people look at the responsibilities that you have, And that's hard to do each year, but putting the right people in the right place is key for everybody. And more importantly, I like to say that we're accountable. We're accountable to our community. We're accountable to our taxpayers. This is the money we receive. This is how we spend it, capital, internal, and operating budget, and I think people appreciate that. But Mr. Dyer just said, $85 in the base student allocation, we'll barely pay for that teacher pay raise, which we're expected to do and we want to do, but we're continually having to fight for that. When you look at the ELA grade 3 success, and actually I was talking to Ms. Baser about this morning, you can see where the systems are starting to build. If you really take a look at those charts, and I hope our community will do that, every aspect, you can see where the systems are beginning to build with the acceleration in the middle school, with our scores. I mean, Dr. Moore, civics, come on. I mean, how is that happening? Because of the reading. That's a reading test, you think about it. You've been here 6 years, your team's been with you quite a long time. Those are reading tests that we're looking at when we look at social studies and history and biology. And, you look at our math scores, our accelerated math scores in the middle school. A lot of our advanced math kids are taking the test there, so our high schoolers are taking a little bit later. So you can see there's a difference in scores, but there's a reason for that. Putting executive directors in C&I, glad you went back to that because that is absolutely something that is deserved. And when we look out here, I know our teachers, I went to a couple schools on the last day of school. Our teachers, just thank you. That teacher in the classroom is the most impact you will have on academic achievement. And I just want to thank them for, giving their life to this educational field with our students because it certainly is making a difference. But a special thank you to everyone in this system because all of us together, we create a culture where we want to do the best for our kids every day. So thank you.
Yeah, first of all, before I say congratulations and all that, and agree with everything they all said, which they said exactly what I wanted to say, but, when I was in the system as a teacher and then an administrator, it always just perplexed me that we were constantly putting Band-Aids on things. In other words, we were trying to work with 3 through 12 and ignoring K through 2. And now the focus has been shifted to the preventative, which is, if you look at that with health, of course you want preventative more than reactive. And that's what you have done. And I think focusing on the youngest readers, and like you said, that's going to pay off later by the fact that we have third graders now performing so high. Thank you for that, because that's bold to do. And it just used to frustrate the heck out of me that we weren't doing that before. So I appreciate that very much. Congratulations, of course, on all that data. It's impressive to see all those going up, up, up. I never saw anything going down, so that's great, unless you're hiding it somewhere, I don't know. But it takes an entire system to do that. And yes, thank you for your hard work, and thank you for your hard work, and thank you for your hard work. But it takes everybody in the system to make this happen. And I think the reorganizations that you've had are putting those right people in the places that they need to be to focus on children and their academic growth. I do think that there's still room for ESE improvement. And I appreciate the fact that we're going to revamp that and look at where our kids need the most support and get that support to them. So I thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes?
I'd like to also mention, when Governor DeSantis became the governor, one of his initiatives was removing the once-a-year testing that we used to have, where you're teaching to the test at the end of the year, and implemented the now FAST progress monitoring tests. Again, I've mentioned this before, and I think it's important for us to take a look at some of the scores that we have here as you're looking at the progress monitoring from number 1 to progress monitoring from number 3, and the increase of scoring that our children have performed, it's quite significant. And I think the difference there, which definitely helps show this improvement, the difference there is that we're able to now use the progress monitoring as a tool in the classroom so that teachers can assess children where they are at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and at the end of the year. And that's significant because that also alters teaching and learning. It changes the dynamics in the classroom. It allows teachers to personalize the education system. It allows them to see where children are in the areas in which they are weaker versus the areas that they are stronger in, and then provide differentiated instruction. So I think that's incredible to have happened at a time where we are, creating different systems on the day-to-day operations of our school district, combine them together, and we are where we are today. So I'm glad to see that we do not any longer, here in Florida, have that traditional 1 end of year testing. That was terrible. But now I'm glad that we do have the progress monitoring. I wish there were some improvements to be done to that. Maybe we can talk about that when we get to the legislative priorities. Well, that's a DOE priority. But at either rate, I'm glad. I wanted to take this opportunity to mention that. Dr. Moore, I have a question. A couple of things that you mentioned that are sticking with me here. You mentioned changing the reorganization this year differently so that you're setting up the system for the long term, right? For years from now rather than next year. Reorganizing for the next 4 to 5 years. And then you made a comment about setting up the cabinet level positions so that in case anybody were to leave the system, the board would feel confident to have people in place that can just take those roles over. So I hope you're not leaving.
I am more worried about the folks sitting next to me than I am here. And to be very, very honest with you, we have to build a team that ensures the district grows. And as I sit back, and I think you started by, Kelly completely runs academics. It is my thing. It was my thing when I got here. It's always been my thing. I think it is the most important thing. But she's coming to me and telling me what she is doing in terms of that work. So aligning the system and saying, okay, how do we ensure that this system, I think it's just the responsibility of a system to say it's bigger than me. And this work is much bigger than me. But how do I design it so when Kelly gets that job offer or goes somewhere, I don't know why I'm saying Kelly, Ms. Becerra, do you need to tell me? No. That next man up. And the system currently right now is not designed that way. It is cabinet heavy, meaning it's, you hear it all the time. We'll take that to cabinet. We'll take that to cabinet. We take that to cabinet, meaning we all sit around and discuss the impacts, or they have these cross conversations with each other regarding their specific areas of responsibility and the decisions that they have to make within their specific areas. And as I step back from that, how do I get that decision out of cabinet and down to a lower level? So it's nothing about losing or gaining or going anywhere else. It's simply about creating a system that's going to sustain and grow, regardless of who's sitting at this table. No offense.
So maybe that's the, at one point in my life, I contemplated being a lawyer. Because I thought I
can tell you right now, Ms. Rosario, you beat.
I probably should have, but I didn't hear a yes or a no. And it's not too late. I didn't hear a yes or a no.
What was the question? Am I going?
I hope you're not going. Yeah.
No, like.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Jen, I don't know what she's talking about. So.
No, I hope obviously things do change, but I do hope that everything stays this way, the same for a very, very long time.
So, Dr. Jones.
We're a system about children, and any great leader will create a system of sustainability, so in case anyone leaves, that system will be okay for kids. And that's what I think everybody at that table thinks about, everybody in the schools think about. If I leave, will it be okay? Have we created a system that will sustain itself for these kids? Because that's the reason we're here.
Yes, Mr. Dyer?
Yeah, I think it brings up something I know we've discussed privately. I can't remember if we discussed it at a workshop or not, but I do believe that certainly in a corporate board, one of the things that you look at is you want to make sure that the organization has a robust succession planning oversight, and that we are doing as the board what we need to do to provide training and opportunities for those people that need training and opportunities to be successful long-term. So I would just hope that this is the beginning
Yes.
of a succession planning process that we can do for the entire district. I think that that would be very helpful, and really the point of it is to know, do we have people that we can do things to help come along and to get them prepared for something bigger, whether it is going to school outside, as I think you went to, was it Yale that you went to?
I did.
Yeah, you know, are there programs like that that we should be investing in our people to get them prepared for bigger jobs along the way? And I think that should be something as a board that would be helpful for us to understand where your head is, and perhaps I guess when you can do that in a private or shade session when you're discussing people, I don't know. But can you do that?
No,
No?
not on that.
When you're,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but shade session, he's saying.
No, it's fine.
okay.
I think
We'll have to do
that is, the intent is to begin that work and create a true, through experience and assignment of responsibilities, building that decision-making ability from an organizational perspective. So as we grow the system, we have measures of roles that bring folks into those specific areas. So that is the intent. All right, Madam Chair, I would just hope that you all, as you're giving out credit, give the board a great deal of credit. You all are unwavering in your expectation of what we can do as a system, and unwavering in your support to make sure that we get it there. So this doesn't happen without a board who, A, sets an expectation and pushes and then supports. Moving on to the following items, I'll just set it up. Jaime will present B and C. Dr. Shafty, Kira will present D and E. F through H will be Dr. Jacobs. Dr. McMahon, welcome to the table. He'll present the guiding principles for AI. Ms. Basura will present J through L. Beth will do M, and Bruce will take us home N through T. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jaime. It's your birthday.
Thank you. Thank you,
Happy
Dr. Moore. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, board members. The first item, number B, it is a review of the annual fire safety and casualty inspections. We're required by law to conduct inspections at all our educational facilities and our ancillary facilities as well, under State Statute 1013.12. So this item is going to be presented at board's approval for this evening's meeting. And you're not really approving the violations themselves, but you're approving that the inspections were conducted. However, I will tell you that all the violations were addressed. We did have to make an amendment to today's meeting, so thank you very much for that correction. It's been identified and corrected, but it was already listed as an item that was corrected.
Yeah, but it's only corrected in the workshop. It's not corrected in the business meeting.
We will take care of that.
All right, so the two items that I brought up that needed correction, so the board knows, is Treasure Coast Elementary and Sebastian River Middle School. Those did not clear on the business meeting. So they look different. The business meeting, it still says deficiencies. On the workshop, it says that it was cleared. Which is it?
I believe.
Is it cleared or not? That's my question. Okay, they're all
I want to
cleared.
say that they were updated, but I have not looked at the business meeting one yet.
Okay.
But I just.
I
heard they're
did,
all
I
updated.
just looked at it and it says deficiency.
Maybe that needs to be refreshed, because the last time I checked that
me check.
workshop, it was.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, there is one other thing I want to add about this. This is always a sticking point with me, is as a principal, when I used to get this, it would frustrate the heck out of me, because you go through, I don't know how many times you'd say it, but yet you'd still get these violations. You know, I looked at a lot of them that are easy fixes. So the question is, could they, at the beginning of the year, address this with their staff so that you're not waiting until the end of the year to clear things up that have been a problem all year?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that now after reviewing this report from this year is before we get back to school next year is address maybe like a top 10 list of concerns. Maybe have those take back to the school so they can kind of share that with their folks.
Could we also do maybe a quarterly reminder to people not to do things like the extension cords and propping things in front of emergency doors and things like that? Because it seems to be an issue every year that we address at the end of the year. To me, that doesn't make any sense. You know, it should be continuous throughout the year. Do you
You're right.
agree?
Yeah, we could do that. Definitely can do that. And a lot of it, it's simple fixes like extension cords and things like that, that you correct it on the spot, but then
Then it
later
happens,
on
right
pop up-
after the
pops
fire
again.
safety guy leaves, boom, it's back in.
they pop up
All right.
again. The other item that we have is interlocal agreements in letter C. It's between Indian River County Board of Commissioners and ourselves, and it's for the temporary storage of hurricane supplies in the event, or emergency supplies for that matter. In the event we do need to store some items, we have identified a location that it's not going to affect our operations. It would only be deemed whenever there's a state of emergency in our county and the schools will be closed. We do have this temporary agreement until we can store their supplies. The question did come up regarding as to why are we storing this now versus what we did before. And what happened was they used to bring the whole entire 18-wheeler, drop off the equipment in the Connex box that they bring it in, but they're not doing that anymore. So we have to unload the supplies and store them until the hurricane passes, and then we have this supplies available for us after the storm passes.
Yes.
Thank you for answering my questions regarding this. I'm glad to see that it is temporary, but what I didn't see is, and now that you're mentioning the agreement and what happens with the trailer, that the trailer's not staying, so what happens after the storm if there's a surplus? Where does that surplus go?
We would work with
With the
the local emergency operations center to let them know that we have surplus, because there may be other places that need it versus it could be that we dodged a bullet and we're able to shift those supplies somewhere else. So it just depends on what happens at the time.
Was it discussed at any point in time during hurricane season to store those for the entire duration of the hurricane season? Because it
No.
seems like this is just based on one emergency, whereas, we know hurricane season can, it's a few months.
No,
so-
because they understand it's temporary storage, so the intent of it was to, storm is out there brewing, it's coming, it's getting closer, as we identify with the code of uncertainty is coming, is to bring those supplies as we get closer, not to store it now, June 1st, for the whole season. It was only like as it's coming closer.
Yeah, but as it's coming closer, there might be one right behind it. And so if we have surplus from the one that's the first one, if storm number 2 is kind of right behind it, maybe we can hold on to those supplies so that there isn't a need for a new order or something to that effect. That wasn't addressed in this interlocal
Sure, but those are
agreement.
leadership decisions, like if they're dynamic, so
Yeah.
if there's another storm brewing, we would just connect with the local
Sure.
emergency operations to let the supplies stay here.
Right.
Let them go anywhere, absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're good? Thank you.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay. Madam Chair, the next item is a review of the 26-27 Sunshine State Young Reader Award Program Purchase List, SSYRA. We use these books annually in preparation for our Battle of the Books competition, which all of our elementary schools participate. Your consideration of approval allows schools to purchase these books. It is a highly competitive competition, and the approval will allow them to purchase it inventory and begin preparations, which they would like to do as soon as they return to school this upcoming August.
So, question, is the state, do they review these books to make sure they're okay for the kids to read and all that?
They do, and I did as well. I scanned the authors, read through peer reviews. Some of them are brand-new titles, so there aren't very many reviews. And then I did reach out to a couple community members to review the titles for any concerns. And as the policy says, before they even go into our students' hands, they'll be read cover to cover by the media specialist. So we have that added layer of assurance with these titles in these books.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Conference.
Oh, Dr. John.
I'm glad you have this on the agenda, Dr. Shafty. I had some media specialists ask about this because they really want to get going on it. And that is a competitive,
Very.
great night for the kids.
It's quite exciting. They put in a lot of hard work.
And they had quite a few challenges this year.
They did.
And can I give a shout out to Danielle? She did a great job organizing that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. She's a fantastic host for that. The next item is a review of 2027 state legislative priorities. Had the opportunity to share them with each of you during individual board member briefings, but you have not had the chance to discuss them with one another. Something that you do have our commitment is we want to norm that the language and the intent of the language in the priorities meets your vision, and then some of the feedback we received is to create a little more of a seamless, less wordy one-pager once we ensure that the priorities and the language in this document meets the intent of the board at large.
So I actually have a question about the last one. That kind of got taken care of by the State Board of Education this past year. Do we still need it there?
Say again what it is, my
Oh,
computer
sorry.
won't log in, so
It's
I'm
the Schools of Hope revision.
It's the what provision?
Schools of Hope
Okay,
revision.
okay, that was taken finally?
Yeah, it was taken care of by the State Board of Education. It says amend requirements to ensure fair and consistent facilities applications while protecting the district fiscal integrity. And I believe that was covered by the
Great.
state ruling,
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do we need that on here then? Yes?
Going to piggyback off of that a little bit. I'm not quite sure if the changes address the needs that this board addressed. And so I think we need to review that, the changes, legislative changes, and I don't know if they really addressed the concerns that we had. But let me come back to this one. If we can maybe put a pin on this bullet here so that we can have that further discussion. A lot of these areas just seem very generic. They seem very general. So if we were to come back to this bullet, if we're asking something, I think we need to be specific of what we are asking. For example, if it's Schools of Hope revision, we could say amend the requirements to ensure that Schools of Hope pay equal amount of funding, per FTE. Something very specific. I said this last year, what is the ask? I look at our legislative priorities year after year, and I'm not quite sure anything has ever been addressed. And though we have very specific needs, we're not articulating them. I think we're being very wordy and very general rather than being specific. We're asking for $100,000 increase in blah, 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 or something to that effect. Like, what is the ask so that a legislator can look at it and say, I understand this, rather than saying, generally amend the requirements. Amend it how? What is this school district asking us to specifically do by amending it? So I think, just to piggyback off of that one, we still need to go deeper into what the law says and have that broad discussion.
Sure.
And then if indeed, yes, let's remove this, if it did address it. But in general, there's so many here that it's like, what are we asking?
Sure.
Yeah.
Based on the last workshop, the feedback was kindergarten as mandatory, funding and curriculum flexibility, maintaining the hyperlinks to board rule, update high-performing district to academically high-performing, and maintain the one-pager format. So that was the feedback that was received from the board at large, but if there's anything else, these are your priorities, so we will take direction from the board.
I'm going to jump in there since I have conversations with them, and any board member is welcome to have a conversation with our legislators. It's not just me. But I will say, when I go in and I have this one-pager, they're getting one-pagers from probably 25 one-pagers in one day, every day, up there when they're in Tallahassee. It's better to have this ahead of time and talk to them about, here is something that you can help us with this, by putting a bill on. And we have had success in the past with our legislators helping us with funding and with bills. So we haven't not produced anything from creating this. It's just they're getting overwhelmed with everybody asking. So the more simplified you can be, the better. But when you have those conversations and you say, Schools of Hope revision right here, here's the issue we have with the Schools of Hope. We just want to make sure that they're paying what they have to pay when they're on a campus. And that's kind of already been done by the state ruling. So I don't know why that is a problem still for us, but, you know, I felt like the state ruling covered it. I don't think we're going to have a problem with that.
It's been, I'm sorry.
Yes,
It's
go
been
ahead.
covered, then I think we could eliminate it, you know? There's no need to do it. I mean, if we're into adding or changing, the one that I would add is any student that receives state funding is accountable for state standards and state testing. There's an easy one,
I like that one.
yeah?
Can you repeat that?
Any student that receives state funding is accountable for to meet state academic standards and to take state testing, fast testing.
But we have that already.
No, we don't.
I don't.
No, we don't.
Every student in our school district receives.
Not in our school district. Anybody that receives public funds is accountable to
Vouchers.
state academic standards and state testing.
But what students are receiving state funds?
Let's look at
Public
the
state funds.
empowerment scholarships or the
Those are
vouchers.
Those are their tax dollars.
Can I?
So, I mean-
Well, we
can I
can
intercede?
debate the semantics,
Yeah.
but that's, would be my suggestion, is to have accountability for anybody receiving state funds.
But they do take tests. They do have to take
No,
end-of-year
no.
exams. The fast testing is not the only test. In fact, if you go on the Board of Education website, you can see all of the exams that are on there equivalent to the fast testing, of which is required of all of those students who are receiving the PEP scholarship or any of the Step Up for Student scholarship. So it's, they.
Well, I'm just adding a point. I'm
Yeah.
not debating the point. I'm
Yeah.
suggesting that we add it. So we can, talk about it if we want to add the point. I'm just saying if we're going to open it back up, then maybe there's some other things we ought to add.
But we
Dr.
got-
Jones?
But
Dr.
just to
Jones?
add,
Dr. Jones?
First of all, Dr. Shafty, looking back at the notes, when we gave you all these notes here, that was a good summary because we were hitting it from all angles. I mean, I do look back and think, how are you going to summarize that? I have said several times to my representative and senator and others who will listen, we need more flexibility in how we spend things, and I see that on there. Authorize a reallocation across categorical and capital funds. The kindergarten readiness is crucial for us because then by third grade, they're going to be better. The innovative school models, we've talked about that with our innovation that we're doing, funding flexibility. Schools of Hope revision, I think Chair Berenborg brought up a good thing. As long as we think it's settled, I could remove that. But what Mr. Dyer just said, I agree with. Some of the students take the FAST test, some do other things as far as accountability, and they may take the test, but we don't know as taxpayers how they did on the test. They submit it, but it doesn't come back to us. As a taxpayer, and I've said this many times to representatives, anybody who will listen, if you're taking taxpayer money, you need to be accountable. And if you're not taking our standardized test, at least some kind of norm reference test to see if they're on math or reading grade level. Taxpayers have the right to know that. This goes back to me to what we just talked about, how we've saved 10 to 11 million in the last 6 years, but we're still doing our best to keep up with everything that is expected of us. There are 13 chapters in the state statute to talk about what we're responsible for. So we, as school board members, are here to represent the public school system, the public school students, and we have to fight for them every single day. So I've been told vouchers are here to stay. Okay, let's get some accountability. If if they get the $9,000 and don't have to spend money in categorical, give us flexibility, give us something. And this is something that I have fought for years and will continue to do. You know, our public schools are working very, very hard. Obviously, there's competition out there, and that's okay. But we have to be accountable if we're using taxpayer money. So I think in general, I like what's on here. I think we could remove the Schools of Hope revision, but it still scares me a little bit. Scares me to remove it in case something else comes about. So I'm not sure 100% on that. But the flexibility is just key. If we're doing the job we are doing, then let us be more flexible with the money that's coming down. We all know they're in session now. What will happen with property taxes, that's a whole other thing. But it will affect us. It will affect us. So we've just got to stay on top of it and fight hard for our kids in the public school system.
Can I just jump on, I'm asking our attorney, with the Schools of Hope ruling from the state board, does that cover what we're asking for with district fiscal integrity? When they changed it, they said a School of Hope can come on a campus, but they have to pay for security, they have to pay for the lighting, they have to pay for all that. Is that correct?
Yes, no, yes. And I will tell you, I was at the.
Put the microphone close,
Conference.
your microphone.
I attended our Florida School Board Attorneys Conference this past weekend, and we had a big discussion on Schools of Hope and what it's looking like. I believe it's I think it's Miami-Dade, where they're having 5 move in, and they're having some issues with respect to SREF and improvements, and so they've entered into their management agreements, and I still think there's going to be some hiccups. So I like to keep it kind of on the back burner. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be your, do I think everything was fixed? No.
Okay, then I don't
Maybe we
mind
should
keeping
leave
it there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't mind leaving it.
yeah, I don't either.
I just know that they dealt with it at the state board, but whether or not it's fixed, I don't know. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I will say that I think this looks fine. These aren't necessarily my legislative priorities. It certainly looks good, the format's good. I like the one-pager. I also don't think this is a highly effective means of communicating. You know, we could sit here and argue for hours on what we put on this, but I don't know that it's ever going to change someone's mind. I don't. So I think it looks good enough for now. And then I will say, with the discussions on the scholarships, you know, we obviously homeschool our kids, and we know a lot of homeschoolers through the homeschool groups. They all take tests at the end of the year. And for what I know from the friends I have, they all score at least 2 standard deviations above the mean. So I know, you know, people want accountability, but if you demanded all these homeschoolers took the same test that they're taking in the public schools, it would actually change the curve and make things worse for the public schools, technically.
I don't
Well,
think
then we
so.
should know that. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's just something we should know.
Good.
And Dr. Pasca, thank you for that.
You do want to speak? Because I don't think he's done.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm done.
Are you done? Okay.
Sorry. And we should know, if you're not taking the taxpayer money, it's none of our business. None of our business. But if you are, the taxpayer should know at least, you know, where they are, and whether it's good scores, or it's right along with public schools. It's just that, you know, a lot of people share that with me. If you're taking that money, then at least I even recommend a norm, you know, some math or reading norm tests. I don't know. I suggested to our senator taking our end-of-year test. She said, well, we may not teach all those standards. I said, well, we're required to do so. So if there's another test, at least where people could get an idea of where the students are, I just think that's fair. But thank you for your input.
Yes, Dr.
There are math normed and reading normed tests that they have to take. But I want to talk about kindergarten readiness, which is one of the bullets, establish mandatory kindergarten attendance. We have, I mean, unless it's somewhere else, school attendance in statute 1003.21, all children who have attained the age of 6 years or who will have attained the age of 6 years by February 1st of any school year, or who are older than 6 years of age but who have not attained the age of 16 years, except as otherwise provided, or required to attend school regularly during the entire school term. So what am I missing?
Because we have kindergartners who are 5 years old.
Yeah.
What?
We have kindergarten students who are 5.
5. So you want to include the 5-year-old kindergarteners?
Based
Even though
on
the
this-
law, so this is my, although, again, like Dr. Pasca, a lot of these are not what I would put on here, but this is my specific ask, right? This is our specific ask. If we're saying establish mandatory kindergarten attendance, it should say to begin at age 5. It should say to begin at whatever age, so that the person on the other end of the paper reading it understands exactly what we are asking for. Because for anyone else, if we're just saying establish mandatory kindergarten, they're gonna say, we already have that. But we're not including the age limit in which we're asking to extend it to. Extend it, pull it back to age 5, or whatever the age is. That's what I'm talking about in terms of the ask. There are some things on here that I don't feel are a priority. I mean, there's a lot of things that are important to us as a school district. Legislative priorities are those things that are the highest on our list. At this point, I would just go back to, we were talking about Schools of Hope. Whether we leave it on there or not, I don't think that it's the highest thing on our list right now. I think, Mrs. Envil, even if we did have a School of Hope here, they wouldn't begin to open or enter into our schools until 27? 28, maybe? So we still have, so I don't think that that's a priority right now for us. That's my 2 cents on that. Innovative school models. That bullet reads, provide autonomy to implement specialized programs, including K-8 pathways, career and technical education, and thematic academies. I mean, we do that already. So we already have the autonomy. We're doing it next year. We're doing it soon. It's going to be one of the items that we're going to discuss coming up. So what is it that we're exactly asking? Because we are already innovating. So what is it? What's the ask?
It truly is the board at large's priority. That's the challenging part of taking all of the discussions and trying to conceptualize it into a visual. So as long as there is consensus, we'll move forward. Based on your policy, you do need to approve it tonight. So any direction that can be provided so you each feel comfortable voting on this item would be most helpful.
Dr. Jones?
Well, the first part, when it says provide autonomy to implement specialized programs, including, so this kind of gives us an overall, and it kind of gives us an opening in case something else comes up.
Sure.
And, sometimes with high-achieving school districts, you can ask for some flexibility in time, in scheduling, and so forth. So it just gives us that opportunity. So I would keep that as broad as you can.
And in chatting with each of you, there are so many ways to innovate it. We've talked about not every student needs to be in a seat for first period or second period, and it's important that each of your priorities can be articulated based on how it's worded here, which is important. It's that balance of not micromanaging the language of the priority,
Right.
but giving you the autonomy once you advocate in the community to have the backup language of the board.
Yes. Dr. Jones?
Just like we're doing later on in the agenda regarding Rosewood and these ideas that are coming up, because you know what, we'll think of something this year and thinking, maybe that worked, let's try something new. So just along that avenue, because we just have to remain fluid within these and flexible.
So the reason about the kindergarten is because, we keep going back to VPK and how helpful that is for kids entering schools, right? But the FSBA had that as one of their agenda items last year, their platform. And every time I brought it up in an office up in Tallahassee, they were shocked that kindergarten's not mandatory. I was shocked that legislators didn't know that. So that's why the ask is there, because kindergarten is not mandatory. You don't have to enter school until you're 6 years old, according to the state. So our kindergartners enter when they're 5 years old. And so that's another year that we can make sure that they're getting prepared and ready so that third grade they can read. So that's why I strongly advocate that we keep that in there. Anyone else? Okay. Is that clear as mud?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see tonight.
We're bringing it as is this evening. Okay. Thank you. Oh, no, that's it.
All right, good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. The first item that I have to present to you today is a request to accept 8 entitlement grants for the upcoming school year. This is a recurring item that comes to you each year, mid-year, as well as at the beginning of the summer. This year, we have 8 grant awards totaling approximately $11.7 million. You can see in your packet with specificity the particular grants and grant amounts. So this will be coming for your approval tonight to accept these grant awards.
Anyone? We're good? Okay. Thank you for the money.
All right, the next item has to do with our current Rosewood Magnet facility. As you know, as part of our Innovate Ed initiative, our current Rosewood Magnet School is moving to the current Storm Grove Middle School facility. With that, the Storm Grove Middle School facility will be named during the upcoming year Rosewood Magnet School. With that, we need to change the name of the current Rosewood Magnet facility. And I will be talking just a little bit today about the different types of programming that are going to go into that facility in the upcoming year. On Tuesday, May 5th, in alignment with Policy 7250 for the naming and renaming of facilities, we held a community forum to explain exactly what we were going to be planning to do with the facility, so that the purpose was very clear, and also to engage those who clearly have an investment in the Rosewood Magnet School facility due to the legacy and tradition that is present here in Indian River County for Rosewood Magnet School. In addition, on Tuesday, May 12th, we held a work group which was well attended. We had a number of people who had served at that facility as part of the work group. Ms. Deborah Dillon served as our chair of the work group. She was a longtime principal at the Rosewood Magnet School facility, and she helped lead the conversation regarding the renaming of that particular facility. As part of that conversation, there was a great deal of discussion about preserving some of the legacy of the Rosewood Magnet School. It's been deeply entrenched in the community. It has a tradition of excellence. Many of our families, their great-grandfathers and grandmothers and great-grandparents and mothers and fathers went, and now their kids are attending the facility. Many of our teachers who have served in the district over the years have served there as well. So with that, there were 2 names that came up. As you know, our flexible education model will be placed at the facility starting in August of 2026. There will be 3 programs there that I will be going into further detail about. So it will be really a hub of flexible education for students across the district. The first recommendation from that work group was the Core Learning Lab at Rosewood. There was a lot of discussion that they wanted to keep at Rosewood in the name to preserve the legacy and tradition of Rosewood. Part of the conversation about Core Learning Lab is that, as you know, Rosewood Magnet School has a deep, long history of core knowledge that has really translated to excellence in education for many, many students who have gone through the school. So they felt like it was a nod to the core knowledge that's been there for a long time, and that Learning Lab idea is really this idea that students are able to come to learn here in a variety of ways through a variety of programs that will be offered. The second recommendation was Creative Learning Lab at Rosewood, and part of that was, again, a nod to the innovation and innovative model that's being provided there at Rosewood. And so with that, we present to you those 2 recommendations. That the principal who also served on the work group, the current principal, Mr. Adam Faust, forwarded that recommendation to the superintendent on May 20th in alignment with the policy. And then the superintendent forwarded that recommendation to the board on May 22nd. So with that, I'm open to any questions you may have.
So we've got two names, right? So the board has to decide which of the two names.
Yes.
So we each get to put our input in on how we want to vote on this. Anybody want to start? Okay,
That's
Doc-
tonight.
Dr.
We shouldn't, that's not, I'm sorry. Point of order for our attorney. If this is an item that we're going to discuss and vote on tonight between the two names, is that a discussion that we should have now? Or is that a discussion that we should have when we vote on them? Because we're not voting now.
You can have it both ways. You can
I'm
have it
sorry?
tonight. You can do it tonight as well.
You can also do it now.
I'm just saying, is it appropriate to have that discussion during, okay.
All right, Dr. Jones?
I attended the meeting, I did not participate, but it was a very, very strong feeling from everyone there that Rose would be part of it, no matter what. Tell me if I'm wrong for those who are here. It was former students, parents, current student, principals, so forth, and former primary specialists, just listening. And it's a very, very important matter to them. So whatever we choose, having the Rosewood, I think, is important. And I like the link to core because of their core curriculum and how strong they were. When Rosewood was set up as a magnet, it was core curriculum. And Ms. Dillon was the principal there for a long, long time, and that was a very successful curriculum for the school and continues to be. So there was a lot of passion that night.
Anyone else? Yes.
One question I have is there ability to rent like gymnasium space at these schools? Because I didn't see that on here.
Sure. So the current Rosewood Magnet School facility does not have gymnasium space. However, we will have the opportunity as we figure out space and programming, because we're being very careful with what spaces we use there due to the maintenance piece of it. That was one of the questions that came out from our community. Was part of the concerns for some of the facility moves was because of the high maintenance costs. But we are using the two buildings that are in the best condition, and we won't be using the 4 other buildings. But yes, there will be the opportunity for that. We would have to come back to the board once we assess what we would have available.
Okay, so that's in the works potentially?
Yes.
Okay. And then if somebody did not have any scholarships, let's say, no PEP scholarship, nothing, and they're just a homeschooler, they could also just enroll in a class, right?
Yes,
That's still
so
allowed. But
we
this
have-
is specifically for people, okay, you took the scholarship money, now you want to take algebra, but you took the scholarship money, so now there's a fee.
So,
Is that how
yes,
this
correct.
works?
So if you took the scholarship money, there would be a fee through Marketplace, which is the platform we have set up. If you did not take the scholarship money, we will be setting up a direct pay fee for them to be able to take advantage of that.
But previously, a kid could have enrolled anyway without paying money, right?
Right.
Which is still allowed.
Yes, they still would be allowed, yes.
Okay.
So then there should,
Basic school choice, basically.
So we would have to look into that. So they would be able to enroll in our traditional brick and mortar, but this is a bit different
Right.
than our traditional brick and mortar that we receive FTE from. We wouldn't be
Correct.
receiving FTE from this, so that would be a fee
Right.
in comparison to the brick and mortar. You're coming into our classroom, we're already staffing the classroom, you can take
Right,
advantage
and you
of
get
this.
your money from the state like you would a normal student,
Yes,
basically.
and this, just to be very clear, Mindscape Academy is not a school.
Right,
So that's it's a facility that is providing programming at a fee to our community.
Right.
But if you want to enroll in our schools, a course, you're able to do that if you're not taking the scholarship without a fee.
right. All right, thank you for
Mm-hmm.
that clarification. It's raining now.
Yes, it is. So I would be fine with core. The reason I preferred the creative learning is because that kind of gives a nod to the past and the future. It gives the at Rosewood, so it keeps the Rosewood name, but it also is moving towards what you're trying to do, which is offer creative spaces for kids to do innovative things. So that's why I was kind of leaning towards the creative part, just because of, it takes both into perspective, not just keeps the Rosewood name and the Rosewood thought. And that's why I was leaning towards creative. but I would be cool with core if that's what the, if the whole body of the board wants. Mr. Dyer?
Yeah, I've leaned a little bit towards creative as well. I just think core for a lot of people goes back to the old Common Core.
Yeah, it's not a good vibe.
It just, for the audience you're trying to attract, it just seems like that may have a little bit of a negative connotation built into it. So I would prefer the creative. I also think there's going to be some confusion having two Rosewoods, but, people have to drive 10 minutes one way or another if they make the mistake. They'll figure it out.
Anyone else? Yes.
I'm sorry, there was a thunderstorm in one of the things that you just,
Can you put the mic near
lightning.
you more?
Did you say that they're going to have to figure out what?
We have
I said, I think it's a little confusing having two Rosewoods,
Oh, okay.
but, if somebody shows up at one and they should be at the other, I guess they'll figure it out and drive
Yeah.
another 10 minutes. But anyway, I would go with a creative at Rosewood if those are the two suggestions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would agree with you on that one, having two Rosewood, two facilities with the name Rosewood in it. I do like Creative Learning Lab better. I am not a fan of Mindscape Academy. Academy gives it the feel as if it's a school. And if we are attracting homeschoolers on the PEP program, if they see Mindscape Academy as a homeschooler, and I have asked several of my homeschool friends in that group, it's just not, it's not attractive. It's not pulling us into saying, oh, hey, let's check this out as a homeschooler. Maybe they take PEP scholarship. So I would just ask that we consider something else, Homeschool Academy, or Pop-In, or Step In for Students Academy. Programming. If it's programming, then maybe call it programming, or I don't know, something else. But the name Academy just gives the feel as if it's a school. And then it sounds as if there's a school within a school, because now you have, let's say, Creative Learning Lab at Rosewood facility, and then underneath that, Mindscape Academy just seems as if it's a school within the school building. So just from a marketing perspective, I would recommend that we find, maybe put Mindscape Academies, when in the next topic, I think you haven't addressed the courses, but the courses is a different name, right? Let me go there, because that's where
So right now, we're just talking about the facility.
Yeah,
So Mindscape Academy is really programming, which does not fall under policy, this current policy, but the naming of the facility does. I will explain kind of the structure of both the facility as well as the programming that will be present there during the next presentation.
yeah. So that name, the naming part of it, it throws me off. Again, coming strictly from the homeschool environment and the community, it doesn't attract us to say, hey, let me look further into this to see if I want to put my student. You want to draw people in. You don't want them to say, oh, that's just another public school within the Rosewood building. They're not going to be attracted to that. They're going to be attracted to something that they can actually put their child in. Sure, we can mark, you can have flyers, but it's the name. It's all about the name. And the name is what's going to be that first, the first thing that draws their eye to the programming. So I guess I have some questions and concern, some feedback on the course access program. So I'll just get to that whenever you get to it. But yes, so,
I was going to say, that's the next item. So
yes,
if we could
that's
stay
what I
on
just
this
said.
item.
That's what
Can
I
I,
just
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
What are the official names again that we're debating here?
Core
It is,
Learning Lab at
Learning
Rosewood
lab.
and Creative Learning Lab at Rosewood.
So Core Learning Lab versus Creative Learning Lab at Rosewood, and that's the full name of the facility?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, really what we had talked about as a team as we debriefed that at Rosewood in our marketing is going to be minimized. Really, it's going to the main is going to be that main name.
What if we could do, the official facility name is Creative Learning Lab or Creative Learning Center, and then we say, it's not part of the facility name, at Historic Rosewood. Historic Rosewood is
historic.
different than.
Yes,
Rosewood.
so that was
This way
part
you're
of, I
keeping
like
that
historic.
history.
I like historic, that's great.
That's nice.
And this way, it's also clear when you talk about it, which one we're talking about.
So, and we love that idea because we
Yeah.
actually discussed it. The one thing that we needed to look into, which we can find out, is whether we can designate it as a historic site without having official,
Maybe we could do it it's not an official historic site. It's just the name of it. It's just the name of it. But yes, I agree, like, that's a legal question. But I would prefer that kind of a naming if we can pull it off somehow, even if it's not technically a historic center. I'm not trying to create a historic
Right.
center.
We're not saying that.
You know, it's not the old town hall.
we love that. We actually had talked about that because of that concern about confusion between the two
I
facilities.
think that's just a nice way to say it too. It rolls off well, and, but if that's possible, that would be what I would go for.
We'd have to add that to the action.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to suggest is maybe putting the Rosewood first, because you've got Rosewood Magnet K8,
They're not
and then
calling
you would have Historic Rosewood Creative Learning Lab. Not sure if somebody would think that's inside the school. And so it is tough to name this because of that. I like the historic, though. I think
Add
if we're able to
historic.
do that, that would be great.
I do too.
Can you figure that out by tonight?
I think we can name it that without it being a
It'd have
historical
to be a,
center.
Yeah.
We can.
it'd have to be a,
Yes, Mr. Dyer.
I like the historic too, but I think we're going to wind up knowing our need for acronyms. It's going to be the CLLR anyway, and that's what we'll call it.
Yeah, you're right, because we do call them by
CLLR.
acronyms.
The flick, the CLLR, the this, the that, you know, I never know what we're talking about.
I know, because when we were looking at this, I was in that first group that they were talking about this. I gave an idea, and I said, yeah, but the acronym really stinks for the idea that I had.
But I also agree with Ms. Rosario. I think that if the whole idea of this is to market it to a lot to homeschool students, then we ought to have something that is marketable.
Yeah.
And I think words do matter, and so I would probably yield on the programming names more to Dr. Pasca and Ms. Rosario, who are obviously more knowledgeable than I certainly am in that part of it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Can that be
So-
something that you can look at the historic by tonight or not?
It is, sorry. Just my thoughts. You're not saying it's being registered as a national
Right,
historic, as
right,
part of the
right,
register.
yes.
You're just doing it's just like any of our look at our little towns, historic Melbourne. Like, it's not called historic Melbourne. It's not, you know what I mean? But it's just, it's that, it's tying the tradition to it. So I don't think, and ultimately, under your policy, you have the authority
just a
to name
name.
it whatever you want to name it. So if you want to add the word historic before it, that's up to you all.
Okay. And
does say that.
the other question I have is the school number. So school numbers are extremely important, and people know that the older the school,
fish reports.
the younger the number. In other words, the smaller the number. And this school is number what?
I
21? 41. So that's the 41st school in the state of Florida, is that correct?
I don't think so.
For elementaries? Okay, how do they come up with a 41 then?
We would have to call DOE to find that out.
I know people have a thing about the numbers.
So we have done a great deal of research and conversation about the building numbers and the MSIDs.
Yes.
There's a lot of implications for the building numbers, MSIDs, record keeping, all of those. Brian, do you want to speak to, because it's very complicated, and I don't want to misspeak.
So the MSID number, I'm not sure where it comes from. It's not the order of the school. There's more than 9,999 schools
Yeah,
in
that's why I was
Florida.
saying, was it number 41?
No, because there's other districts with the 0041. So when you
Okay.
combine the district number of 31 with 0041, that's what makes it unique. There's a difference between the MSID number for the school, the educational school, versus the facility.
Right.
And so like where you're going with this, if we deem Storm Grove Middle School campus now has a facility number of Rosewood, well, Rosewood's campus has a whole historic record to it that we don't want attributed. So DOE is recommending that we keep the facility number 0371, which is Storm Grove's old facility number. That way, when we look up historic records for that building, wherever it is, when did it get a new roof, when did it get new AC, it will be,
Right.
it will stick with the 0371. But the
Okay.
new MSID number for the school that will be attributed to the school grade and all the schedule, all that stuff will still be Rosewood 0041.
Okay, so a Rosewood then, when we look up grades on the state records, will still be the same number, it just transfers?
Yes.
Okay.
The actual
That's
application.
why I was
to-
asking that, because there are some historic things that go along with the numbers.
That's
When we
next-
submit the application, we tell it specifically, Rosewood is moving locations and Storm Grove is closing. In this case, the two are merging together, technically.
So that's an
Right, don't
excellent
say
question. We
closing.
spent many weeks trying to figure out what the right process was for that.
Yeah, I actually went through this when I was a principal, and we restructured an F school and changed it into a early learning center. We had to actually change the numbers and everything, and it was quite a legal issue. So I just want to make sure that you've obviously gone through all that. Okay. So I guess we'll be voting on this tonight. We can discuss a little more tonight about why we're coming up with that name. Sounds good?
All right. The next item is part of our Innovate Ed initiative. It's the flexible education model that will be housed at the current Rosewood Magnet School facility. The reason why we have initiated the work in this area is because we know that families are seeking different educational options beyond the traditional model. For example, our own Indian River Virtual School has grown from about 30 kids to 77 kids. That's due to the hard work of our Indian River Virtual School team, Kelsey Weeks and Ann Bieber. But we anticipate that we will continue to grow out that program. Also, parents are wanting flexible, customizable learning pathways that fit their child's schedule, needs and schedules. So we really know that the game has changed. A lot of our homeschool families are looking for different educational options, not only that they provide to their own children, but also within the community. And then finally, we have an opportunity to build trust and long-term engagement with families. As we shared at the very beginning of this workshop, we have unprecedented outcomes and really have started building a legacy of excellence in the school district of Indian River County. We have both notoriety as in the state as well as nationally for the outcomes that have been achieved here. And we want to be able to expand that opportunity to our homeschool families for the quality of instruction that our certified teachers are being able to provide to our students. So what is the mission of this particular flexible education model? It's to expand that access to flexible personalized learning for families seeking alternatives to traditional school settings. And we're going to be establishing a drop-in learning center that provides supplemental academic enrichment and social opportunities and expands our Indian River Virtual School while highlighting our district as an innovative education provider. So there are flexible options, 3 flexible options in one location. So that's what I want us to keep in mind is when we talk about this Rosewood Magnet Facility, AKA possibly the Creative Learning Lab at Historic Rosewood. There's actually going to be 3 different programs housed there. Number 1 would be Indian River Virtual School. The full-time option are for diploma-seeking students. So they are enrolled with our teachers, our certified teachers, teaching virtually from the location at the current Rosewood Magnet School facility. This is funded through FTE. That program continues to grow, but our teachers will be housed there. That is a shift from last year. Last year, our own teachers, SDRC teachers, did not teach that, but now they will be. So that is the shift there. Mindscape Academy, and we've taken that feedback into mind. It will provide some in-person services. And what I want to emphasize here is that these are supplemental services. So any kind of programming that's provided through this academy is supplemental, non-diploma seeking, really geared towards those students who have taken the PEP scholarship or homeschool students that are self-pay. So the reason why this is self-pay versus free in our traditional brick and mortars, as I suggested before, this is not a school. This is a program facility At our schools, our homeschool students that are not taking the scholarship, I'll talk a little bit about that with our course access program. And then finally, the third component is our course access program. Students may enroll in our Indian River Virtual School or in our traditional brick and mortar courses for up to 3 credits, district courses for credit. Now, it's important to keep in mind, this is either funded through the PEP scholarship or an FTE or non-PEP scholarship homeschool students. So there's 3 different routes you could get access to that. If you're on PEP scholarship, you can pay to take one of our courses at high school, for example, band, if there's a seat available, for a fee. If you're a non-PEP scholarship homeschool student, you can enroll in our high school in band for no fee. Or you can, that FTE is really what pays for that non-PEP scholarship student taking that course. So keep in mind, these are all based upon seat availability in our courses. As you know, we use a staff allocation model within our schools, so we are extremely precise with the student-to-teacher ratios, and we have a very clear idea of how many seats we have available. So those are on an as-available basis. With this structure, I do want to take a moment, I should have said this at the beginning, to thank the team that really has thought through this and developed this out. This was a large multidisciplinary team that continues to grow over time. As we start building out programming, I'm bringing in those educational program experts to help us build out the actual what these offerings look like. But this team has worked for a number of weeks at a very quick pace in order to build out this programming. Just to go in more specifically, Indian River Virtual School, this is an SDIRC school. The only thing is that the teachers and the supports for that school are going to be housed in the current Rosewood facility. This is a full-time option, and there's a minimum of 6 courses to be taken. They're courses for credit. These students are working towards a diploma. As a number of you know, they have a graduation just like our other high schools do at the end of the year, and you attended that. They are SDIRC certified teachers. There's a rolling admission to maximize student performance. In previous years, there was less flexibility, but we've increased innovation around this particular offering. So students who maybe have a situation or issue where they are needing to enroll in virtual school, we are being more flexible with that. This is funded through FTE. Mindscape Academy, the potential offerings you can see there: content area instruction, specials, therapeutic services, science fair project labs, Minds in Motion camps, individual tutoring, specialized tutoring, pre-K acceleration, skill-based camps. Will all this be offered in the first semester? No. Will some of these be offered in the first semester? Yes. What we are doing is we're taking the survey data that we have from our homeschool families, and we will prioritize what we are offering. Right now, it really looks like electives, financial literacy, socialization. So in addition to that, we hope to build out some parent kind of connection times that parents can come on campus when their kids are at one of these STEAM camps, and they can sit and socialize while their kids are getting these course offerings. You can see the fee schedule that we have up here. One of the things you may notice is that there is a range. The reason why there is a range in some of these is depending on the particular camp or course offering. The materials cost is a cost to the district. It may increase or decrease depending on the offering. We also have a big opportunity to centralize our assessments that our virtual school and homeschool students who are selecting to take those go. Right now, they go out to the different schools to take the assessments, and we've had, it creates additional workload on our campuses. At times, students may not show up at their time, may show up late, may be in a different, coming at a different time than when what we traditionally provide the assessments. So we really want to take that lift off of our schools and have everybody centralized to this Rosewood Magnet facility, so they don't have 2 and 3 people coming in at different times to take the assessments. And we can have 1 or 2 people coordinating that rather than multiple site-based administrators who are coordinating assessments, receiving those and processing that information and arranging for supervision for that. So when you look at the fee schedule, there was essentially 3 things that we wanted to do. We wanted to be competitive, so we looked in the local area of what the cost of a lot of these offerings were to be competitive. We wanted it to be accessible for our homeschool students, to be able to access our certified teachers as well as the high quality of instruction and the educational experiences we're offering. And we also wanted it to cover our operating cost. So those were the 3 criteria that we used when developing the fee schedule. Course access program. So this is twofold. There's offerings, these are a la carte, so they can either take a part-time through Indian River Virtual School and not work towards an SDRC program, or take that traditional brick and mortar course for $550 a course. Those are for the students taking the PEP scholarships. Why $550 a course? That's because that's half the FTE for a year for a course, just a little bit less than half an FTE for a year for a course. For the part-time virtual school, Indian River Virtual School, there's a max of 4 courses of a year they can take. So our operational model, we will be using a flexible staffing model. Both of our Mindscape Academy as well as our Indian River Virtual School will be staffed by the same teachers who will do part of their workload will be Indian River Virtual School students. The other part of their workload will be for Mindscape Academy. The staffing levels will scale that based upon enrollment to maintain efficiency and quality support. So if we all of a sudden start getting a great deal of interest beyond what we anticipate, we will relook at that just like we do with our staff allocation model across the district and staff accordingly. The building office hours will be from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. We will also, in light of financial or fiscal responsibility, we will be relocating our Department of Student Services to the current Rosewood Magnet facility. The reason why is our student enrollment department is part of that. They will be providing administrative support, and that will be easy access for any family to be able to come in and enroll their student in a front-facing, or ask their student enrollment questions in a front-facing place in our district. In addition, as you know, because of the move from Rosewood Magnet to Storm Grove for our Rosewood Magnet School, we have placed a school bus depot at the current Rosewood Magnet facility. That bus will be picking up between 7:20 and 7:30 and transporting a number of students over to what is the current Rosewood or Storm Grove Middle School facility. So we didn't want any conflicts between those students getting out to their school and then starting programming at this facility, so the operating hours will start at 8:30. It will be staffed with a principal as well as a school resource deputy. So it will have the same level of school safety and security that our other school facilities have, despite just being a district facility as opposed to a school. Year 1 focus to expand virtual learning, open our Mindscape Academy, which is our drop-in learning center, pilot new learning opportunities. So really the first learning opportunities we have there, we will be piloting and then build awareness and grow enrollment. Our long-term vision is to expand pathway options to K-12 students, increase our district enrollment and reach. We hope that once families get a taste of the quality of instruction that they can experience here in the school district of Indian River County, they will be interested in a more comprehensive experience with our teachers. And strengthen family partnerships and become a leader in flexible learning. As we did our research, we only found 1 or 2 other places that did this type of flexible learning. One was, I believe, in Washington State. So we would really be taking the lead in doing this kind of work. So with that, any questions that you all may have?
Well, one thing about that last statement, I have heard from other districts in the state of Florida that are doing innovative things with bringing in homeschoolers to get courses, but I don't think they're doing it with a facility like this.
No.
They're just doing it either virtually or on their campuses that they have.
All other districts are doing is the program where the kids go.
Marketplace.
They're going
marketplace,
in and
right.
taking the actual courses. No one is doing this body work from the Mindscape work, the drop-in center. being intentional about going in and providing flexible learning, we're the only ones.
Yep, I think that's very innovative, especially with the spaces. You know, we hear about other districts closing schools and how that, the community reacts to that, and, you know, understandably so. But I think this is a great way to honor Rosewood's legacy as it's historic, but also be innovative and offer things that are out there that are kind of unique. So, good job. Anyone want to comment on this? Yes, Dr. Rosario?
Yes, thank you. Let me pull this up. Okay, the first thing that I have that I wanted to talk about was something on the list, therapeutic services. So therapeutic services, and I'm looking at the handout, the additional handout that you provided with the price list on it. It says therapeutic services for 1 hour, a charge between $100 to $150 per hour, but you don't list the services there. So what are those therapeutic services, and what will determine whether it's going to be $100, $110, or $150?
Sure. So the therapeutic services would be your traditional occupational therapy, physical therapy, or speech and language therapy. One of the things that, as we did this work, that was pointed out is currently within our district, we often operate at a shortage with those therapists because they can go outside into the private sector and make much more money. So the reason why we changed it from 100 to a range of 100 to 150 is because when we contract with outside providers, often it's between $100 and $125 in which we would have to contract, and we anticipate that if we offer those services, we would contract. We would base that on the demand of the program, so we're going to re-look back at our surveys. More than likely, it would be the speech and language services that would really be the desired services, and it would cost us at least $100 to $150 an hour to provide those services.
So are this occupational therapy, I'm not sure, I don't know, and this is the part that I don't know about, under UA scholarships, I don't know if occupational therapy or these therapy services are included in that, but I think it also depends on the IEP, so I'm just throwing this out there I think we should just make sure, double check and triple check that the UA scholarship does allow for those costs, or, you know, whatever that you would call that, services. And then, of course, go from there, make sure that we're listing the ones that are covered under the UA. The PEP scholarships don't cover that, but the UA scholarships do. Are all of these in the Mindscape Academy open to UA scholarships? Because there's a few areas here that are only listing PEP. So it looks like we are disallowing UA scholarship students, which I think would be unfair.
So we wouldn't necessarily be disallowing UA scholarship students. What we want to be very clear about is we are not a traditional school that is subject to free and appropriate public education. And so with that, we do not have to provide a free and appropriate public education. We, however, will extend those opportunities for a fee to any student and parent that wants to use Marketplace or their scholarship money to be able to access those services. We would, under Section 504, and correct me if I'm wrong, we would, under Section 504, have to provide accommodations to students, but we would not be providing specialized instruction because we are not operating as a public educational entity.
Which clearly that's what we're talking about. So, but under here where it says assessments, homeschool, PEP scholarship, you didn't add UA scholarships. Why is that homeschool area only available for PEP scholarship students and not UA scholarship students?
We can add that to there. Our primary focus is really, because this is supplemental programming, not specialized programming.
The whole thing is supplemental.
Yes.
So I don't even, so it's,
So
I
some
think,
of it's therapeutic, but the primary focus of this is supplemental.
well, even that, would be supplemental. For the homeschool, for the homeschool family who's choosing these services, they're all supplemental.
Sure. And we can confer, I'll confer with Amy of how to list that, because we want to make a very clear distinction that we are not serving as a school to provide specialized instruction
Right.
for IEPs.
Right.
So we have to be very careful about that language.
Right, so the only two areas that I see are under assessments, where it says homeschool PEP scholarships. If we're including both of them, then I would just remove the PEP, because it's going to be for all students receiving Step Up for Students
We
scholarship.
can do that.
And this way, it's all-inclusive. And then no cost for homeschool, okay, that I understand. So it's just really that one area. I want to stick with assessments for a minute, because here you have assessments, what's listed is assessments, state testing, I'm going back to the PowerPoint, state testing, CLT, ACT, SAT, et cetera. And I understand the idea of testing homeschoolers in one place, but you wouldn't know who is a PEP student and who isn't when the parent registers.
So I can have Dr. McMahon go through the process of how they process assessments for homeschool students.
I don't think it's scheduling. You
Scheduling,
mean
processing, yes.
So currently, right now, we advertise on our website, we push out emails to our registered homeschool students, and just allow them to know that for the PM3 session, that if you would like to register your child to take it, they can register. And there's a deadline, and so they'll reach out to us and say, I'd like to do this. We do not offer, because of staffing, we don't offer homeschool students who take the assessments in any other window. The state requires us for PM3 to open that up for that end-of-year assessment for those homeschool students. So they'll call us and they'll say, I'd like my child to take algebra. And in the past, we would also ask them, okay, where's a centralized location that you would be close to, your zone school? We would then coordinate with that school to accommodate visiting test takers. So they would have to arrange for their front office staff to welcome them. There would be a holding place there in the front. They'd have to process them. They would then take them to that room. The school would then have to provide a TA, administer the assessments to those students. And so by shifting it to a central location, it alleviates the staffing that is needed at all 22 schools to accommodate these testers.
Right. So the state law, 1002.41, sorry. I'll read it again whenever you're ready, Ms. Enville.
1002.41.
Yeah, 1002.41.
Go ahead.
Okay, section 2, subsection, I guess 3? No, subsection F, number 3. Hope I said that right. It begins with the student shall.
All right, I'm ready.
You there? Okay. It reads, wait, now I just lost my place. It reads, the student shall take, and of course, this is a parent's option, right? The student shall take a state student assessment test used by the school district and administered by the certified teacher at a location and under testing conditions approved by the school district. All of that, we can choose the location for which, you know, if they're going to take end-of-year tests, where they take it, clearly. But if you scroll all the way down to the last item, number 13, it says a school district may not further regulate, exercise control over, or require documentation from parents of home education program students beyond the requirements of this section unless the regulation, control, or documentation is necessary for participation in the school district program. So if we are asking a student to now pay $75 to $100 for an assessment that they would have regularly taken for free, it seems to be an extreme or excess control and overregulation of what would originally be for free.
So if students are not taking the PEP scholarship, they can take it for free during the assessment window. If they are taking the PEP scholarship, it is the choice of the family whether they want to take a state test or other tests with the school district. There is precedent across the state of Florida for this very thing that we will be doing with charging for students who are taking the PEP scholarship. There is a cost associated with administering these exams, the materials, as well as the staffing associated with it.
So how would you know who's a PEP student? That was
They
my
reach out
original
to
question,
us.
and we didn't get it.
They just as Brian has said, they reach out to us.
So a PEP student can actually say, I'm not a PEP student, or, a PEP
I
parent
would
can
hope
just
not, because they
say.
would be lying, and that would be fraud.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, in general, we're charging, but even though there seems to be this precedent across the state, we still have a law that says that we shouldn't overregulate what would have already been in the case. So I'm gonna ask Ms. Enville if you can just take a look at this and make sure that we don't overstep those bounds. Like, I understand the whole thing about the PEP. I'm not, trying to be controversial over that. I'm just saying I don't want us to assume that that's not an overregulation of something that would have already been for free, not the location is different. But it's the charging that seems to be excessive. I'm going to stick here on the assessment part. Oh, do you want to say something?
I just want to say, Ms. Enval, I'll forward you the direct email that we received from DOE that authorizes it.
Yeah,
And
that
the
would be
other
great.
piece-
Can you share that with us, too? Yes.
And through the chair, the other piece is that students who are not on PEP scholarship have to enroll with us. So if they're not enrolled with us, we know they're on PEP scholarship.
We say that again?
So students who are not on PEP scholarship have to register with the school district. So if they're not registered with the school district, we know they're on PEP scholarship.
Well, you assume they are.
We also provide the DOE with monthly data on who is enrolled with us, and they provide us with a list of who they are paying the scholarship through.
That's good, because we weren't getting that before. So that,
No, there's a lot that we weren't getting before.
good,
so,
okay. So that's good information. When did that start?
This year.
This year? For this year, or this year for next year?
No, this year for this year.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to stick here on the assessments piece of it, because I still want to talk about the CLT, the SAT, and the ACT with regard to the assessments, not the end-of-year testing, not the end-of-course exams. So for the CLT, the ACT, and the SAT, if a parent registers a student, it only costs them $68. Or, if there's extra fees, if it's late fees or whatever. It's $68 to take the test. Here, we're asking them to pay $100, and in addition to the $68, we're asking them to pay up to $100 just to sit in our school and take the SAT or the ACT that would have only cost $68. They could drive to St. Lucie and take that test for $68. And when they register, they're not registering with the school district, they're registering on the ACT or the SAT website. That is, to me, an overreach of, an overregulation of what the law says there.
So Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, that the difference would be they're welcome to drive to St. Lucie for $68 and register, but they would be registering with us, and then our staff, we would have to pay our staff to man that, just like we do it when we're given at our schools.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that there are Saturdays that they can register at our schools for that. They're welcome to sign up for that. So this would be those extra administration days. Maybe they don't want it, they can't make it to that particular Saturday. That SAT determines that this is a day, and it is up to 100. We would not, yes, there is a range of fees, and I don't know, I don't want to speak to this because I don't know the final answer, but it's not saying we are going to charge $100 for the SAT.
This is the part that I think we need to clarify here because it's important, right? So if it's, because again, when the parent registers, they register on the SAT or the ACT website. It says choose a location, they choose a location, they're already registered. 9 out of 10 of them, 9.5 out of 10 of them will choose a Saturday testing site.
That's not what this is for. They can still do that.
That's not what this says. This says assessment in general for SAT, ACT, CLT, and all the other college entrance exams. This says all college entrance exams, 75 to 100% per assessment. So we need to clarify this. If it's only Monday through Friday, what is it called? It's called weekday, school day. If it's school day, then I think we need to clarify that here, that the assessment fee is only for Monday through Friday school day testing. Saturday testing, there's no fee attached to that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So just to be clear, we wouldn't be doing any Saturday testing at this facility. Those already occur at our high schools. So they would register, pick a location. This is for those one-off. My stuff is due, my college application is due in a week, and I need to take another one, and there's no Saturday offered because there's only certain Saturdays that are offered, and they can be far apart.
Right.
So this is really the one-off. This facility would not be open on a Saturday for
So
that.
can we clarify that on here? Because
Sure.
the way that it's listed, it only looks like a very broad general, every SAT, every ACT, every CLT. I mean, it's.
Well, it would be for this facility. So keep in mind, when you look at this fee schedule.
I understand that, but the average
Okay.
parent looking at the course, what's offered and the fee schedule, they're not going to understand that. I get it. I'm with you. We're on the same page. I want it to be clear for parents as they're reading this, that it does not include, it excludes Saturday SAT, ACT, or CLT. Weekend testing, rather, Saturday or Sunday, because some of them are offered on Sundays. Please, thank you. And then the other, let me know when. Good? Okay, the other thing is recreation hour is it says $15 per hour. What is recreation?
So that would be socialization on the playground, playing kickball, playing what kids do at recess typically.
So just free play, yes. So can we say that? Because recreation to me is like arts and crafts
It
or.
says it at the bottom. Potential offerings, unstructured playtime, parentheses, recreation.
No, it doesn't say that where I'm looking.
Well, then look at the page, it says
Why don't you
page
look at the
6.
other one?
I
The
know,
other
look at
one,
page 6 at the bottom of Mindscape Academy. It says unstructured playtime, recreation.
go ahead.
So I just want to share with you all that the team currently is working on building out all the specifics of these programming. So as we share this out with parents, we'll have all of the details of these things. We really needed to get the logistics, the facilities, the framework done first, and then we're going to get down into the nitty-gritty details of exactly what each and every thing looks like, so.
Okay, then my last item here is about the traditional brick and mortar and the Indian River Virtual School cost list, or cost. If we stick with the part-time Indian River Virtual School, we're charging $550 per course per semester. Florida Virtual is only $375. So we're charging $175 more, and as a homeschool parent, I wouldn't do that. I understand that we could come to our local school district, but I wouldn't want to do that for $175 more. $175 can put my child in a PE class or, some other course. So that to me seems a little excessive.
So what we did was we took half of the FTE that would take to provide that course with our certified teachers. We strongly believe that we have some of the best teachers in the state of Florida. And so if we're going to provide access to the best teachers in the state of Florida, we want to charge a fair amount for them providing that instruction. So they would have access not only to the instruction from that course, but from the supports from those teachers. And we really also want to encourage students to enroll full-time in the virtual school so that they're diploma-seeking students and that they get a comprehensive, coordinated pathway of educational programming that really sets them up for success later in life.
I don't disagree with that. What I'm offering is the high price for a homeschool parent at the beginning. The idea is to draw someone in. If you have a lower cost that is comparable to Florida virtual, the idea between a parent choosing a Florida virtual school or an Indian River virtual school would be like, especially at the beginning, like, no. Now, if you're comparable year one, if you're offering the same cost, for example, when we're talking about marketing, if you're offering the same cost, at least for the first year, draw them in, let them see the high quality, let them see the difference between what we are offering versus them, and then in future years, you can increase that cost. You've already got them in. They're already gonna share this great news with their friends and their family in the same area, and of course, that's how you build, right, and draw people in. But you start really high, I'm concerned that we're not gonna bring people in.
Can I make a comment on that? In St. Lucie, they started a virtual program a long time ago. And how they did it was, they set up something similar to what you're talking about, but those teachers were available every Wednesday morning for students to pop in and get extra tutoring or counseling or something else. And that justified the higher price. And they wound up getting totally filled because parents realized on virtual school, your kids are kind of hanging out there sometimes. They don't have that one-on-one, face-to-face. And so it was a time for that face-to-face. Is that what you're going to be providing?
There are going to be office hours. The other thing I was told by the virtual school team is that parents are often waiting months to get into Florida virtual school classes. So this gives them instant access to courses as opposed to having to be on a waiting list.
So maybe advertising that they also get that face-to-face support with option for a drop-in tutoring session. That's what they had, like office hours, where the student could drop in and say, I don't understand this concept, can you help me a little more?
The other thing that I will say, because she's built quite a reputation for herself, is we have a school counselor specifically designated for Indian River Virtual School, and she does an exceptional job with our students and families.
And
so
she's in
that
the
is-
room.
I know.
Boom, boom.
There she is, Kelsey Weeks. So, that's another resource that we have that differs. While Florida Virtual School may have that, we have somebody live here that can really connect with families.
Dr. Jones?
Could we get a break and then I want to
Well, I wanted to ask that. It's 2 o'clock.
10 minutes?
You want 10 minutes? Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break, and we'll see you back here at 2:12. And the last conversation was about the face-to-face offerings for the virtual school.
Yes.
Did you want to say anything else to that?
Yes, so I did find out from the team that Florida Virtual School is charging the same exact amount that we'll be charging per course, per semester, so they are at $550, just like we are. Just-
So it's not 350,
It's $550.
550.
Not according to their website.
Okay,
Is that a
Dr.
new
Jones?
charge?
Okay, still talking about this. First of all, Dr. Jacobs and your team, this planning was massive. Thank you very much. I know it's a new idea. It's going to be fluid, and we may say some things work, some don't, and I just appreciate it. But one thing I did say this morning in my meeting with Mr. Green and Dr. Moore is that our operational, we can't lose money. We've got operational costs. We've got a principal there, SRO, got to pay for electricity, water, maintenance, custodian, and so forth. So I think what we want to do, obviously, in the long-term vision is build what we can. I had mentioned in one of the meetings we had about, I know, or 8:30 to 4:30, but maybe sometime we could, at nighttime when students aren't there, have GED or adult ed. I don't know, just something in the future if we need to build. When you look at the long-term vision, I think the 4 statements made are really, I think they summarize everything. Expanding our pathways, increasing district enrollment, strengthening our partnership, and then just become a leader in flexible learning. And again, work with our parents to see what works and what doesn't. But when you mentioned about SAT and ACT, and then also our Indian River Virtual, I was just at an executive roundtable meeting, and a parent put her child in Indian River Virtual her senior year when she was at Vero, and the reason she did it was a connection with the counselor. They had someone they could talk to on a regular basis. And so that was key. And she said, and it made me feel good, the FTE stays in your district. So they're listening as we talk about this when we go out into our, on Economic Development Council I'm on, Executive Roundtable. So I thought, man, that's cool, they're getting it. And so that was basically on the fluidity and the long-term vision. But, there are things here that we may say, this works, this doesn't, but I love the fact that we're being innovative on it and that we will continue to look at it and make corrections if we need to. But, I know this team worked very, very hard. We look at this PowerPoint and say, oh, that's nice, but it took months and months to put that together. And I have one final question for Dr. McMahon, if you don't mind. How many I remember when I was a high school principal, how many came in and took the tests at that time, FCAT, FSA. How many of our homeschool students are now taking the test, do you know, in our schools?
We have approximately 40 to 50 homeschool students taking the spring assessment.
Spring assessment, okay. And when they take the test, are their scores submitted separately than ours? How does that work?
No, it's all through the same mechanism, but because there's not an enrollment, it doesn't get tied to any of our schools or our district for the grading purposes.
Okay, so it's separate, okay. So 40 to 50, okay,
We'll get the scores, and
thank
then
you.
the family will as well through the portal.
Sure, thank you very much. But, I know there's still a lot of question on this and where we're going and so forth, but just thank you for starting this process. It's creative, it's innovative, and it's Indian River. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it's terrific, too. I think you did a very good job. I like the whole idea. I do think that this has to be marketed, and the words that came out to me is that what you may want to consider something with a flexible learning in it, like Mindscape Flexible Learning Institute. Is an institute better than an academy? It sounds like it. So, maybe there's something in there that you could do that would get the whole idea across in one name. But I think you did just phenomenal job, and I think it's a great idea. And properly marketed, I think that it will be very good for, not only for the students, but for the school district.
I like the flexible idea putting in there. I think that's important. Yes.
One more thing with assessments that I know is a need in the homeschool community. It's finding good SAT, ACT, and CLT test prep. That's huge. That's something that we all, even I scrambled with trying to find a good, high quality, even locally. So that might be something to add on to there.
Thank you.
I was going to ask two things. Can a student enter virtual program mid-semester? I don't think they can, right?
We are more flexible mid-semester.
Can they do that?
So in our new enrollment, yes, but they'll still be required to complete the semester the same amount of time.
Okay, and the reason I ask that is because, you know, you have some students who get frustrated mid-semester and we don't want them to drop out of school totally. So I think I talked to one of your graduates this year that happened. So I was just curious if they could do that mid-semester, so thank you for that. I think that needs to be put out there with our counselors for kids that are having a hard time, that's an option for them. And then semester class, how many classes per semester? Because that cost in the semester class is really low. $300 for 2 times a week. If you do the math, it's like $5 to $8 an hour. Is that right?
It's approximately $8 an hour. So it would be $80 an hour that we would, if we had 10 kids more, if we had 10 to 15 kids is where we're shooting for. Certainly we can relook at that but we think that would sufficiently cover our costs. Frankly, we probably will be starting with some of the other programming that we know we do super well, like the camps. But certainly we have time to
So that's down
relook
the
at that.
road. Yeah,
Yes.
because I told you, I teach online and I charge $16 an hour. And it's not even an hour class, 50
Right.
minutes. So when you say, well, we can bring up to 10 kids, I have 18 kids in some of my classes. So it can pay for all the things that you need it to pay for. All right, anything else? We're good?
Dr.
Okay,
McMahon.
Moving on.
Just need the presentation pulled up. There we go. So before I begin, I just wanted to highlight this first slide. This is a repeat of the last presentation, this slide, and I did that intentionally. This is not my work alone. This is a work of a collaborative team. And so I just felt it important just to highlight their names so that you can see that the work that you are about to see is the work product of a large number of departments of people. So with that, when we originally convened this task force, we did have certain objectives, many of which we have accomplished and some that we are still working towards. And so the guiding principles, that was supposed to be changed.
It's changed on mine.
It's, okay. I think it's just the wrong one that's loaded on here. The one that's online should say principles.
We're educators.
I caught that.
Yes.
I caught that. I caught.
Fourth grade spelling bee champ I was in fourth grade, so sorry about
Changed
that.
online.
It wasn't used in a sentence, it wasn't.
Well, that could work too, guiding principles.
So these were originally offered to you as core values for what we delivered. And what we did was we changed these to be the guiding principles at the suggestion of the board to include these in the policy, which we'll talk about later. So I just wanted to bring these to your attention. These were the core values. We're now naming them guiding principles, not principles. I guess it's pronounced the same way, principal. Anyways, the next piece of work that we as a task force engaged in were recommendations. We divided these recommendations into 3 groups based on the immediacy of when we wanted to implement them. So this first slide here are the immediate priorities. These are the ones that we feel we need to immediately start working on, some of which we already have. So the first one is to develop role-specific Use Tomorrow AI guidance resources. This was a topic of conversation at the last board workshop that I presented on. These would be specific to parents, to teachers, to schools. They're role-specific so that we can get very specific with the stakeholder that is reading this guidance. Second one would be to review and modernize the board policy. We do have that as well. It's going to be towards the end of this presentation. District-wide AI framework. That is maybe not something that's going to be so heavily published to see, but the idea is that we're going to lean on other expertise. So there are frameworks for educational institutions in order just to make sure that we are kind of looking at every angle and every aspect of it. So we want to establish that, creating staff-facing AI implementation resources, things that will help them become more efficient, design and develop an AI-powered decision support ecosystem. We're in the process of doing that. And then finally, just to partner with the strategic communication and marketing to ensure that everything that we do is properly marketed to all of our stakeholder groups. The next school year priorities, this is kind of our midterm timeframe. Developing age-appropriate student AI guidance resources. Just wanted to emphasize the reason why we pushed student back just a little bit is we first wanted to provide teachers with their guidance. And then based on how that fleshes out, we would then provide the age-appropriate student AI guidance resources. We also wanted to implement some kind of formal AI vetting and approval process. It seems that even how do I explain it? I'm thinking about Sean Thompson now. There was some kind of device that was like I don't know. I'm going to call it a microwave. It's not a microwave. It is a physical object that you would never think would need software, and turns out it does. Turns out it needs access to the Wi-Fi so it can, get their software updated. So there's a lot of these products that we just don't know the kind of data that is going through it, whether it's AI or not. So we wanted just to make sure that the district is protected, that as we go through the various purchasing processes, that we have a formalized vetting and approval process. Integrating AI into existing instructional and operational frameworks. We've somewhat began that work ad hoc, but we want to kind of formalize that. Recommendations for K-12 AI digital literacy integration, that would be for the students. So how do we plan on delivering this literacy integration throughout our content areas? And then finally, maybe a optional site-based content area AI collaborative so that our instructional leaders can learn from each other. And then finally, the long-term strategic priorities. These will probably change. This is a category that as a task force, we thought these are important. They're not immediate, but they're important. And so we wanted to capture what these were so that as time goes on and as we have additional resources available, we can start to relook at these long-term strategic priorities and maybe emphasize some of them over others. But a district-wide AI toolkit, developing readiness and progress monitoring of how we're using AI, continuous improvement, accountability cycles, much like we do with our schools. Can we not do that with some of our AI tools? Maybe some micro-credentialing for our staff members, comprehensive handbook. That was one that we kind of thought maybe that might not be the best idea because AI is changing so fast, but at least how we govern AI, we can absolutely put in some kind of handbook. Embedding the AI competencies into leadership development, whether it's through an evaluative purpose or some other leadership development. And then finally, the peer demonstration classrooms like we have at VBE for the Moonshot classrooms. I'm going to pause there because the next one is the board policy. I figure I'll answer any questions if there are any on those slides up to this point.
No, but I thank you for my request of looking at how the board policy needs to kind of align with this as far as guiding principles.
Yes,
And so thank you for bringing all this work back to us.
absolutely.
And now that we're looking at the policy, we'll see how the changes that were made, maybe just direct us through those changes.
Well, I have a question. I have a comment.
Yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. The guiding principles, which, by the way, the handout that I have has the correct spelling. So the guiding principles, the one thing that we have talked about as a board, and I believe there was plenty of consensus on it on multiple occasions, is certainly ethically, ethical and legal considerations. Those are, I see the act ethically on here with connected to community, in that section on connected to community. But some of the other areas that I heard this board talk about, I don't see here as guiding principles, and I really think it's incredibly important. Number one is digital citizenship. I don't see digital citizenship here, and cultivating an AI literacy framework or something to that effect, so that we are establishing safe guidelines and guardrails for students when it comes to AI. I don't see that here. I know that you probably included in some of these bullet points, but I think it's really important that we make that explicitly clear because of all of the concerns with AI, as you well know, and we've talked about. Those are some of the things that I think is really important. The other thing, AI literacy and fluency when it comes to students with disabilities and special needs, the protection and then the guidance on that as a principle, as a, an overarching principle. I don't see that here either. Some of these principles are also very generic, which is fine, but I think for us as a board, standards compliance really needs to be highlighted somehow. And I don't know where you can, I'm sure you can probably put them in. The good thing is we are at the beginning stages, because as you move forward in this, the recommendations are to continue to work on this, to continue to establish district AI framework, to continue to work on these things with the task force moving forward into next year. But I would like to see the guiding principles be tighter in terms of what the expectations are of this board moving forward.
Thank you for that feedback. It does. So in this particular PowerPoint, I included this slide because I've previously presented these to you, except for in the previous workshop, they were called core values. And so what I just wanted to highlight here is we're changing them from core values to guiding principles. And each of those does have clarification that comes after it. And without kind of referencing the past workshop, the past documentation, if you do look in the proposed policy, these guiding principles are included in that policy along with the I don't want to call them clarification, but the additional details where you're saying that they're
Remember.
vague, absolutely. Up here, definitely. Some of them, it could mean a lot of things, but what we tried to do is capture that. I just, for the sake of one slide, just to help you understand these were core values, now guiding principles, I didn't want to put all of that verbiage in there, but it is in the proposed policy.
Yeah. So, yes, I do remember that, and I had the same comments then as I do now. Guiding principles should be very specific as they are actually guiding the work. So if we're being very generic, then we're not capturing some of the important things like responsible use. And clearly we have ethically, but what does that mean? So responsible use, monitoring, evaluation, those kinds of things, those keywords really need to be captured in what the guiding principles are, or the previously core, whatever the word was that you used. I still had the same comments then as I do now.
So,
And the recommendations moving forward, I don't see any parents.
That was the first one.
yeah, could you show her the actual policy, because what she's asking is in the policy? For the example, the very first one, protect with integrity, it says student safety, privacy, and dignity are non-negotiable.
Okay, I don't see any parents on the task force members.
This first one, develop role-specific use tomorrow AI guidance resources. Role-specific means the stakeholder role. So we will have parents guidance.
No, I'm sorry, on the slide, on slide two, task force members.
Here,
Yeah,
there's no parents there.
I don't see any parents, unless somebody's a parent that I don't see.
One, two.
No, a parent, are they parents?
They might be parents in addition to, I'm a parent of
Oh,
4
okay,
children.
I understand. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So can we, moving forward, get a few parents other than employees on this task force?
Certainly we can, I will go back to my boss and explore. I don't know if that's necessarily part of this work that has been designed for this task force. I understand kind of what you mean as far
Yeah.
as getting some parental
Other
input.
feedback, yeah. Because, you guys are employees, you come with a biased, I mean, not that you're biased, but you get the idea, this is your work, and even though it's very important to you all, having someone who's not an employee, who's a parent, just not an employee, just brings in a different perspective. So just to have that other viewpoint, as we do on several of the other things, committees and other things that we do where we want parental input, that would be good.
So, question, is this a committee?
No.
No. So this is a superintendent-directed action?
Yes.
Okay, that's different.
Yes.
Can you get to the policy? Because what she's asking is in the policy.
Point of order.
Yes.
Policy, I understand the policy, when I see the marked up version, says Neola 2024 at the bottom. Is this a new Neola policy that we are adopting, or is this us freelancing and doing our own thing against the old Neola policy? Because we talked about the last time about trying to get ahead of everything, the state and Neola and everybody else, and I thought that we kind of felt that we shouldn't. So I'm trying to understand, is this Neola that's now ripe and we're approving it?
So can I interject on this only because what has come across at the state level was that districts should be adding guiding principles to their policies. And that's all I'm asking for. That's what I asked them to do, to bring it to us to look at that.
Okay.
Because Neola has not done that.
So this is not Neola, so we'll be doing a Neola policy. Well, it won't be a Neola policy anymore.
Through the chair, this is a
Yeah.
Neola policy that
What?
we have adopted.
Say it again, 'cause they
This
didn't hear
language
it.
is all Neola that we've adopted?
I would say most of it. We received from Neola a proposed policy, and the task force went through and adapted it to this. We took out a lot of, kind of based on your recommendations in the last workshop, we didn't want to create a policy that we would be in 3 months redoing because the technology has changed, et cetera. What we did is we took Neola's suggestions and we changed it based on our needs to make it so that we're not so locked down on certain vocabulary. There were, some of the suggestions for Neola was just totally ruling out an entire category of AI. And we felt like that was not an appropriate, because 3 months from now, that category might mean something totally different.
But
Yes.
my only thing I'm asking, I don't have a problem with some of the things that I've read, but I've been told that we adopt Neola policies because then we have a legal defense that they defend if anything goes wrong. I don't know what's going to go wrong with this policy, but if there is anything that happens as a result of our policy, we now don't have any of the Neola, if we change their policy, we don't have their defense. Is that correct?
Through the chair, if I
Yes.
may. Okay, so you're correct, yes. So Neola gives us the templates, and we take a look at them. If we adopt the templates in substantially the almost exact same way that they do it with our, minor changes here and there, Neola does the little trademark at the bottom that says Neola.
Right.
When we deviate from Neola's, they do a comprehensive evaluation and they determine whether or not we've deviated too far from their template suggestion, which I tell you sometimes is a good thing, because having worked for Neola, with Neola too, they sometimes look at our policies and they have adopted some of our changes that we've made have prompted them to do their revisions. So what they'll do in that case, if it's too far from their standard template, they go ahead and trademark it, and it'll say Indian River at the bottom. So we still have the protection either way.
So this will
that
go
helps.
through the scrutiny of Neola once we've
Absolutely.
done, if it's different. That's really my question, is
Yeah.
because every other policy, we say that's important that we do it that way.
It is,
So-
but this is definitely something that I'm actually meeting with Neola in June Well,
Okay.
that's, yeah, in 2 weeks, next week. But this is something that we have been discussing over and over and over, and districts across the state are looking at their revisions as well, because it's changing so quickly, but we need to get a grasp on it. So I think that these changes that it's my opinion, that they took, the task force looked at, they're very well reasoned, very well thought out, and I really like the language they have, and I would imagine Neola will look at it and see if they like it too.
Good.
Do you want to talk about the changes of the policy?
Yeah, just as an example, the definition section, for example, they had probably 12, 15 different definitions. And we felt that that was something that we didn't want to have in policy because AI, if there's one thing that's for sure, 3 months from now, we don't know what it will be able to do or what it can't do. And so what we didn't want to do is define in board policy certain terms and certain language that may not be the same in 3 months. And so instead, we added the little phrase, let me put my old man glasses on. For purposes of this policy, AI refers broadly to computer-based systems capable of performing tasks, And so we then said AI technologies evolve rapidly, therefore definition examples will be maintained and updated in district procedures rather than a policy.
Okay.
And so the guiding principles are the part that, the state is saying we really need to look at putting in place, because when you do a generic overall guiding principle, not so much generic, but flexible, we're using that term today, that helps with the changes. So we're not changing this policy every month.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Jones?
Thank you, Dr. McMahon, and to the committee. When I look at the guiding principles in general are generalized. It's not getting into the specific. And whether you do a handbook for teachers later or not, whether you think that's necessary, that's where you could get a little bit more specific. But I know I talked about this at the last meeting, and I heard this from other board members. Words that keep coming back to me with AI is ethical, safety for our students, age appropriate, and the human at the center. In other words, and we see this wherever we go, this is a topic on the news every day. AI is a tool, and how do we use that and keep our teachers as the focus and not the AI itself. So, to me, when we look at this, and it's going to change not only yearly, but probably monthly on what's coming up and what our kids can access, is how do we keep them safe? And that will always be my priority. Thank you.
Dr. Posca?
In the policy, it outlines employee use of AI. In there, it defines that if a teacher is using an AI tool, for instance, to build a lecture, they would have to label the lecture as having used AI to help make it. You're familiar with that part?
Are you talking about the top of the second page?
It's under employee use of AI, that paragraph.
Okay.
Employees may use AI tools to enhance workflow.
Mm-hmm. So in the last paragraph right before student use of AI, it's the use of AI tools for such purposes should be used in a manner consistent with district expectations for accuracy, professionalism, and responsible communication.
There's one sentence where it
before
says,
that?
when using AI to create instructional materials, assessments, or feedback, employees shall maintain transparency by disclosing the role of AI in this process or these processes. And obviously, they need to review and verify the accuracy of the appropriateness of what it generated. That's obvious. But how are we going to have a system to monitor if teachers are actually labeling their instructional material that they create using AI and following that? Do we have a system of monitoring for that we can create?
I think to some extent that would be more procedural rather than policy, and so not yet.
Right.
Based
Certainly,
on
I would
what's-
agree. It's a procedural issue. We're setting up the expectation you're going to monitor it.
Right.
You don't have a way of monitoring it yet, probably.
We have not even thought through that. I think the idea is
Yeah.
that it's important to disclose when they are using it rather than
Right.
claiming it as their own work.
Right. I mean, it would be easy enough to look at the user IDs using the tool that are teachers, and if they're spitting out a lecture or a lesson plan, I mean, maybe we could create a system that's tagging that
Yes.
and have a follow-up and just make sure they're actually doing it or something.
Right.
Because I could see how this could get out of hand real quick.
Absolutely.
Where everyone's, because I already know professors at colleges, and they're taking their lectures, putting it in AI, and they're like, this is better, I'm just using this.
Correct.
Everyone's using it, and then there's hallucinations in it, and they're
Yeah.
missing. So I just want some sort of structure down the line. It's going to be
Absolutely.
important.
Dr. Rosario.
So we have said, and I know Dr. Moore has said it as well in some of our meetings, that we would work very diligently to establish the systems first before allowing students to use AI for anything, really. That we were going to start training our administrators, and then having our administrators train our teachers, and then having our teachers, train our students and so on. But what is presented here to us is allowing everybody to use AI, and there's no evaluation system. There's no monitoring. We have eliminated and taken out the words that previously prohibited students from using AI for homework. And now we're opening it up for them to be able to use AI for basically anything, just saying, just don't plagiarize. That's not smart. What happened to starting at the top and working our way down? Meanwhile, the presentation is saying, we're still working on this stuff. This stuff is still fluid. We haven't even established a framework, but we're opening up AI generative platforms to be allowed to be used by everybody anytime they want.
So
That's completely contradictory to what we've previously discussed. And when is this coming to us?
this is not coming tonight, no.
Okay, not tonight.
And to
Yes,
clarify.
please. Sorry, Mr.
I'll
McMahon.
let you go, that's fine. I was just going to say, so in student use of AI, there is one section, it says, students may use AI tools for academic purposes when specifically and clearly permitted by their teachers. And one really easy way to control the student use is on that platform where they have these tools, they need an extra permission to use the tool, and the teacher grants it. Literally, there's the ability to allow them to use the tool for a specific lesson or something. There would be a way you could regulate, so these tools aren't just sitting there all day. They log in and are using them maybe inappropriately. That may make more sense, some of these tools.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I mean, right now, when you Google something, you're using AI.
Right.
There is no way that we are
Totally
going to,
understand.
to bring that in. So when we had the conversation, the last workshop, I made the comment that we're not just building the plane we fly, we're designing it as well. People are going to be using AI with or without any kind of policy here. And to clarify, we're not putting specific AI tools in the hands of a student without having, to Dr. Posca's point, some kind of structure with that. What we wanted to understand and to clarify, AI is a tool, much like a calculator would be a tool. And so, rewind 30, 20, 40 years ago, whenever calculators first came on the scene with math education, there were teachers that very much like what we're having with conversation with AI. No, we need to prevent everyone from having it. What we now have matured into realizing is that calculators are a tool, and used properly, they can really enhance the understanding of mathematical instruction with it properly done. And so what we wanted to make sure we did is we set a bar at students may not use AI unless it's specifically within that instructional framework. And that's, to Dr. Posca's point, that was the point of that policy. We do want to help teachers to understand how do you use AI as an instructional tool. So when you're writing an essay, there's a bunch of different instructional strategies to help them. And this is, again, it's up to the teacher, but just as an example, you can actually incorporate AI use into that writing of the essay. It might be, I want to see your topic sentence that you hand wrote, then I want to see you putting it into AI, and I want to see what the response was, and then I want to see how you took AI's response and made it your own. That's just a strategy to help use it as a tool rather than just kind of kid go off and do what you need. The point of ultimately student safety is at our first and foremost concern, always. And my point in holding off on the student resource until the next school year and immediately going through the staff is what I want to work out with the team is how are our teachers going to be using it before we give a specific you can and can't do this to a student. And so we felt like this policy, it's student safety first. They're expected to use it, students, but within the confines of what the teacher sets out.
Well, the previous, what was removed, I don't disagree with what you're saying there, with the exception that what was removed here are the words utilization of AI tools is strictly prohibited for the completion of schoolwork. So where it comes to supplemental material, sure, let the teacher give the student permission to do that with permission and with guidance and with strict guardrails around what is allowed and what isn't allowed, ethically, professionally, all the things, but not to complete schoolwork. They should be able to complete schoolwork on their own. They should be able to think independently, write independently, answer questions independently, write essays independently. They should be able to do all of that schoolwork alone. Group work, sure, introduce, and again, we can scale it, but here we've completely removed that altogether. And again, it does say unauthorized use, or I should say, this was also removed, notwithstanding the preceding, students can use AI in the school setting if given prior permission from their teacher.
Right.
So it doesn't take that away, it just sets up the expectation that, no, you can't use it for schoolwork. You have to be an independent thinker.
Right, so the first two sentences that you're talking about are crossed out are actually contradictory. The first statement says that they cannot use it. The second one says that without the express permission of the teacher. And so when the task force looked at this language, instead of saying you cannot use it, which would forbid any student from using anything at any point for schoolwork, what we said is that they can only use it within the confines of what the teacher has set forward. So as a math teacher, I taught calculus. Some of these problems are very complex. I could see myself offering 3 of these problems to do for homework. And oftentimes what happens, especially with what I taught, that student, if they didn't understand the homework, where did they go? Most of their parents could not help them with a calculus type problem. And so I could see where I could say to them, if you're confused, AI it, but don't just give me the answer. Talk to me about how do I get to this step and then have it. I'm not saying this is what we're going to do. I'm just saying as an instructor, AI is a tool to help us, and we could set certain strategies, certain things to allow students to use AI in parts of that work. And by having that policy of saying you cannot use it, it would preclude that. And so for us, if there's a teacher that says, no, do not use any AI on any of this, it's allowed with his policy. The teacher can restrict that access.
But you're saying that what you're saying now is not what you said in previous meetings.
In what
And
way?
what we're doing is creating a policy that is allowing AI usage without setting up the training, the frameworks, and the guardrails. We haven't gotten there yet. We don't even have a monitoring system to monitor
So to
teachers or setting, that up to make sure that teachers aren't utilizing
Right.
or acknowledging that they've used AI to create lesson plans and so on and so forth. So we've also not set up a clear way of providing protection from students' personal information for teachers grading schoolwork using AI, uploading student work to AI platforms, and then grading those where student personal information is now out there for the whole world to see or to have access to or potentially. And that we can't have.
So to
So
clarify.
we haven't set any of that up first before opening the door for AI for our students. So I'm not disagreeing that students shouldn't have the opportunity. I'm just saying I think we're a little too premature, and I would not support that right now,
So
where
that-
we are as a
That's one
district.
vote. There are 5
I know.
people here.
Well, I'm not asking, I'm having a conversation with him. You can have your opinion, I have my opinion, and I don't need you to curate my opinion.
I am not
I am
doing that.
having an opinion with, I'm having a discussion with Mr. McMahon, and that's where it
Dr.
is.
McMahon.
That's my opinion, that's what
Wow.
I think. I'm not in support of it. You might be in support of that, I'm not in support of that. I think that we should set up all of these parameters first before we allow access to students or free access or whatever that access is. If teachers aren't given the framework first, and they say to a student, go ahead and use it, or use it for homework at home, and the parents don't monitor, I mean, we're just opening ourselves up for really
Yeah, so to clarify,
not
I
a good
never,
situation.
I never said that we would disallow AI from students. In fact, what it was is I made the comment that we're flying the plane as we build it. Like I said with Google, there are certain AI pieces that kids are going to use regardless of what this policy is. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, but we're a school
In terms
system
of-
that needs
In
to
terms of
protect that.
personal PII, we absolutely have policies in place. You have an entire policy on PII, and that applies, whether you're using AI or just any other search engine. So teachers are still held accountable to that. And then finally, the third point in response is that was our first immediate response, or on the, here, let me go back. The very first recommendation, develop role-specific use tomorrow AI guidance resource. We're in the process of doing that.
Do not what? I didn't hear you.
Develop role-specific,
Oh.
use tomorrow AI guidance resources. This is the first bullet on the immediate priorities. One of the big pieces of that is our teacher guidance. So when you're saying we haven't done that yet, yes and no. We're in the process of developing that, and no, we're not, we don't have it to launch today.
So maybe we should do that first and then change the policy.
No.
Okay, let's have some other people have a chance to speak. Mr. Dyer.
I just read recently, I know that, I think we're probably closer to AGI than a lot of people think, from some of the things that I have read and seen. But one of the things I just read was a company unleashed AI, and there's got to be a control about how we do it. I mean, just to do a general query, of course, that's free, but a company unleashed it on their engineers, and they got a $500 million bill in 1 month.
Microsoft.
So I would hope that as we use it in the school system, that we are not using a school version on our servers that actually pays for tokens. Because if we do that, we could really unleash a genie that would certainly do more than the healthcare to deplete our budget. And that we don't want to do. So I think there's some controls that we need to put around that to make sure, both internal and external. Not that we shouldn't use it, it's just be very specific, and we should monitor the expense as we do use it. So that would be my other comment. Other than that, it looks like the policy, again, is not ripe for a vote, and it's going to take a lot more discussion over time. So I would hope that we just get a few comments and move on and move to talk about it again.
Dr. Jones.
Just a couple things. I agree with what Mr. Dyer just said. The minute we say no one using AI, that's out the window. People are using AI now, teachers, students, parents, organizations, businesses. I think the key is the control in educating our teachers, which I think is what you're online to do, and it will take some time. And I think I mentioned this last time, Dr. McMahon, I think once you get into that flow, your team, maybe through Zoom or something, helping our parents, just so they can understand what our kids can get into if they're not watching, you know, and
Even if they're watching.
I appreciate that you said you have 4 students. Mine are older now, but yeah, it's something you want to watch, but it's something that we have to educate people on, our teachers, and make sure that we have I hate to say the word control, but we monitor that so they can work with our students to know what's appropriate. That's the key, and I thank you for putting that up there as far as, looking at that use tomorrow as guidance resources. And then we'll modernize our policy and take a look at it. And we may say in a year, that's not working. We'll revamp. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is a good start. It's obviously not ready to be voted on.
Correct.
And that's why I asked you to kind of present this, because obviously there's a lot of thought about how we should proceed with this, and we're probably not all in agreement, which is fine. But, you know, giving you the professional courtesy to respond is also part of this, and I appreciate your patience.
Absolutely. Ms. Becerra.
And through the chair,
Whoa.
sorry about that. Wowza.
Hello.
I just want to thank you for the earlier kind comments. I really appreciate those. And I want to take a moment and just thank my team publicly, because while I said thank you up here, I am certain they didn't get to hear that. Amazing CNI team who goes out there every day and does really challenging, difficult work with some amazing school teams, teachers, students, school leadership teams. They're all really just relentless in their pursuit for excellence. So I appreciate and value them and want to make sure that they know that this is their hard work. So thank you for giving me the chance to do that. As briefed in individual board meetings, board briefings, I should say, I'm bringing to you 5 items. 3 of them are curriculum renewals. Renewal for Lexia Learning. Lexia Learning is a state-approved, also a board-approved intervention curriculum for K through 12. We've been using it for a few years and had quite a bit of success with that so far. That is up for renewal. The next curriculum item is Curriculum Associates. That is a computer-adapted blended learning program. It supports our students in math and reading K through 8. It does allow us to differentiate instruction, both accelerate and remediate. It does help students on individual learning paths, and also has been something that we've been using over the last several years with great success. My last curriculum is Imagine Learning, and this is required, as a district, we are required to offer a credit recovery option for our students who need to recover credits in order to graduate. Every year I do an analysis of all of the different credit recovery programs out there. This is one that offers the largest catalog of services that are the most state-aligned to Florida standards. So I'd like to be bringing this one forward for your approval. The next item I have is Treasure Coast Technical
Can
College.
I ask a question about that last one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the credit recovery, it's been an issue in the past where the answers are all Googled,
Yeah.
and the kids just Google and get through, versus learning. Has that been improved?
That has been addressed with the company, and they have been building in some stopgaps around that. But the other thing that we've put into motion is that our students will take the test part of the course in person.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes, that's one of our ways to try to help keep everybody honest. Treasure Coast Technical College, it is also a board policy for us to bring the TCTC calendar to you for your approval annually. So you will find that calendar follows our district calendar. That is coming to you this evening for approval. And I'm very excited about this. I'm excited about all of them, but this one especially, the Pediatric Nursing Simulator. We received a grant for this simulator. And I know you've all heard how great our practical nursing program is at Treasure Coast Technical College, so this will just add to their skill set. So those are my items.
Yep.
Any questions?
Yes.
So with the credit recovery,
Yes, ma'am.
can you talk a little bit about, so we were just talking about AI, right? And I know you mentioned something about AI just a second ago, or the accountability or something to that effect. What is the structure, how is the structure set up to ensure that students aren't doing that when it comes to this specifically? 'Cause
This
these
specific-
are online courses.
These are online courses. We can control the coursework such that they take their tests in person. They've previously been able to take their tests online, and so we are able to see how quickly a student goes through the course. If they are through the course in 2 hours, what should be a semester-long course, I mean, that's a red flag for us. So we have mechanisms in place, along with the support from the company, to flag irregularities, but we have, as a district, made the decision that students would take those tests in person.
So is that going to start, is that happening right now?
Yes.
So there was a student this year, had credit recovery, was almost told that she couldn't graduate because she didn't finish the coursework. And within a week and a half, she finished an entire semester's worth of work for credit recovery in a week and a half. And I'm like, how'd you do that? She used AI. I said, nobody caught, nobody flagged, like, nobody noticed? She said, no. It's
What's
like-
her name?
Not on camera.
I know, I'm joking.
She graduated.
How many hours a
She
day?
needed it for graduation, a whole semester, a whole course. So these are the things that I'm talking about with regard to the policy that we're saying, in essence, on paper, that, you know, we don't want that to happen,
Right.
but it happens.
Right.
And the larger structure for me in the policy, what strengthens our policy, is not that we're allowing it, but that we're not allowing it. Because when we say that with a teacher's permission, then there are these loopholes that can cause things like this.
Right.
Or then what, if there are red flags, how do we stop those, you know, how do we address those red flags? So anyway, I think maybe we need to include this portion of it, in our policies to make sure that even with, or in the AI policy, that even with course recovery, things like that should not happen.
Right.
I think that should be definitely added.
Dr. Jones?
Well, when you look at a semester course, it's 18 weeks, 9-week quarters, and it's an hour a day usually for a 3-hour course. So you could do that in, 18 hours if you're putting your whole week toward that. So it just depends on the time that they're putting in, which we could look at. I love the idea that the students are testing in a lab where someone is supervising them, but when you take a look at it, if they were just concentrating on that one class, it would take the 18 hours per semester. So it's just something that, I think that when we look at this as far as students, we have to see what effort's going through and how much time they're spending on it. I used to think about that too as a high school principal, but sometimes when they came and they could do it all at once, you take a look at the hours they're spending and so forth. I mean, when anyone takes an online course, you hope it's their work. You just hope it's their work. But unless someone's really watching it, you don't know. When my kids took Florida Virtual School, a couple classes in the summer, I was watching that because how do you know it's their work? You always don't. So you just have to trust the process and see how much time they're putting toward it.
Thank you.
Ms. Christopher?
Yes?
Just to follow up on what Dr. Jones mentioned, while the student is a full-time student, they're not going to use 18 hours in a week and a half. Sorry, that's
We
not
don't
gonna
know
happen.
that for sure.
I do know that because I spoke to the girl.
Yeah. I'm just saying in general, I'd have to look at the students and how much work they're putting in it. I wouldn't say that everyone would do that, so.
That's why I brought it up before, because I know that that program has had the answers out there floating in the, on the internet, and everybody was just using it. So that's why I wanted to make sure that, because credit recovery, a lot of the kids were saying, well, I don't pay any attention during class, or I don't go to a class, and then I'll just take credit recovery, and I can zip it out real fast. And that's why. The kids know that they can cheat that way.
We have actually shifted
some of the timing of that. In the past, we were trying to be purely in support of a student as they were ending the school year. If it looked like they were not going to pass the class, we would start the credit recovery earlier, which is what led to that phenomena. And now we don't do that. We've changed the way we do that.
Is that the only company that's out there?
They're all online and you can Google anything and find the answers to anything out
No,
there.
I know, but is that
Yeah.
the only company that offers credit recovery?
No, but when I've done an analysis of the companies that are out there, some of them are not based on Florida standards. And if they are spotty Florida standards, and their catalogs might only be core content areas. If we have students who have failed an elective and need to make that up, this is a robust catalog that gives our students more opportunity. And they're aligned to the Florida standards.
Okay. Good afternoon, through the chair. I have one item. This is just the renewal of Navigate 360 that we use for the character education, K-5, the resiliency lessons, and the PBIS rewards for our positive behavior intervention systems.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is renewal time, so the first item I have, item N, is a renewal of our Canvas learning management system, which our students and our teachers and all of our employees use. That's an annual contract renewal, followed by item O, which is a renewal of our IT ticket and asset system, so it tracks the assets of our technology devices as well as our help desk ticket system. P is the purchase of identification card printer software and support. So we were leasing these. Those are the iStudent RFID printers that print the cards. We were leasing them. We kept them for 5 years. So now we're able to buy them for 3 years with service and keep them for 5, and it'll be more cost effective to own them than it will be to lease them. So this is the webcam, the tripod, the software, and the printers at all the schools so they can print the RFID student badges.
Yep.
Item Q is our recurring critical district expenditures. So each year we bring to you items. So for example, you'll see on there $6.5 million to SCRIMP. That's our consortium for risk management property casualty. We have to pay them. You'll see Cisco Food on there for $3.2 million. We have to buy food for food service. So that is the list of items so that we can be able to operate throughout the year that are over exceeding $50,000. Item R is the 5-year facility work plan. I want to be very clear. In some board briefings, there were some questions. This is 8 months old from the DOE. They were supposed to open in October. So this is the plan. You've already adopted our capital 5-year plan. So this is old. You'll see schools that we're now doing different things with on here, but we have to take our plan and put it into the web portal for the DOE. So it is open, the team has put it in there, and it's for DOE approval. Item S, letter S, is the facility supplemental plant survey. So every time you want to make a change in the future, you have to do what's called a spot survey. So this spot survey has several things to it. One of them is a very long, confusing list that looks like a bunch of rooms with no schools.
Yes.
And all of that is from DOE. It says, if you ever build a new school, here's all the types of rooms that you possibly could use with the suggested square footages. It's just part of the survey. So if you build a new building, you could put a female restroom and a male restroom and a gym and a classroom. So those are just generic from the DOE. It's not what we're doing. When you go past that, then you'll see what we're doing. This spot survey includes all of the innovative and operational changes that we made. So moving Osceola Magnet into Oslo, moving Oslo into FLC, moving FLC into Vero Beach High School, renaming Pelican Island Classical Magnet, adding K-8s, renaming Fellsmere Elementary. All of those things are in the spot survey, as well as future things, which we may or may not do, but you need to tell them in a spot survey. We might want to do something with the Wabasso campus if it moves into Glendale. Doesn't mean we have to, it just says we might. We might want to do something with the Osceola Magnet School once they move out. We might want to rename it and have other programming there. We don't have to, but we might. And then it also lists all of our vacant properties. Again, we're not surplusing them through this, it's just saying these are possible future uses. Once it's approved, If we decide to surplus a property or a building to sell, we would have the permission to do that. So this survey encompasses all of those changes. And the last item is the release of a final payment to Remnant Construction for a single point of entry that was completed at Sebastian River High School in the amount of $31,447. And those are all of my items.
Any questions? All right, then I'm going to call for adjournment for this meeting. The time is 3:12.